Ammo racks held depleted stockpiles of standard ordnance and dark-scale piercing torpedoes from previous battles. Some blazing flame-piercing torpedoes had been seized from the Wolfman Alliance, yet their numbers remained small. He needed to fully replenish his ammunition reserves. First round, large quantities of degraded torpedo wreckage and shattered warheads were fed into the fusion interface. Violet light flickered as standard-grade torpedoes were mass-produced. Second round, dozens of standard torpedoes fused into dark-scale piercing torpedoes, their hulls swirling with faint azure light trails. Third round, 40 dark-scale piercing torpedoes merged into Abyss Devourer torpedoes. Their jet-black hulls gleamed like polished mirrors, with dark gold runes along the warhead flickering in a rhythmic, breath-like pulse. Fourth round, 3 Abyss Devourer torpedoes combined into Abyss End torpedoes. Dark purple liquid energy flowed slowly across the outer casing, resembling abyssal flames sealed within metal plating. Violet light flickered repeatedly inside the storage compartment. Bolstered by dual restorative effects from the Spirit Spring and Spirit Fruits, his mental power surged to remarkable heights. He sustained batch after batch of fusions without showing any sign of fatigue. Dark-scale piercing torpedo counts climbed steadily, while stockpiles of Abyss Devourer torpedoes and Abyss End torpedoes rose to levels that satisfied him. Toward the final batches, a dull throbbing began behind his temples. He refused to push himself past his limit. Setting down his materials, he stripped off his top and stepped back into the Spirit Spring. Warm spring water rose to his chest, peeling away the mental strain brought on by repeated fusion work layer by layer. Leaning against the pool wall with his eyes closed, he let the spring's energy seep into every cell of his body. At that moment, soft footsteps echoed from the doorway. "Captain, I picked a few more newly ripened dragon blood fruits. Remember to eat them once you finish fusing." Zhou Xiaoming pushed open the door, holding a small tray bearing 2 fruits glowing with deep crimson luster. Her voice died abruptly the instant she laid eyes on Su Hai. He leaned against the pool wall, forearms resting on the edge of the basin, his shoulders and upper chest exposed above the water. Reformed by the shark heart modification, his physique possessed exceptionally fluid lines, not the blocky musculature forged through deliberate gym training, but the lean, taut muscle mass of a deep-sea apex predator. The contours of his pectorals and abdomens glowed with healthy sheen beneath the spring water. His dragon-scale inner armor lay discarded beside the pool, its dark gold scale patterns shimmering faintly under the lights. A few droplets of water clung to his collarbone, trickling down his torso before dissolving into the pale blue luminescence of the spring. In the span of a fraction of a second, Zhou Xiaoming's fair complexion flushed bright red. Her fingers tightened involuntarily around the tray's rim, and she grew unsure where to direct her gaze. Glancing upward, she met Su Hai's calm gaze from his crimson pupils. Looking down, she saw his sharply defined torso. Shifting sideways, she spotted the swirling dark gold runes etched across his dragon-scale inner armor. No matter where she looked, she felt flustered. Sorry, Captain. I had no idea you were in the spring." Her voice nearly cracked from nervousness. She set the tray hastily onto a nearby shelf and spun around to flee. After running several paces, she hurried back, shoving the tray farther inward on the shelf to keep it from tipping over, then turned and fled once more. Heavy footsteps echoed far down the corridor. Su Hai watched the small, flustered figure vanish around the corridor corner, the corners of his mouth twitching faintly. He rose from the spring pool, dried himself off, donned his dragon-scale inner armor again, walked over to the shelf, and picked up the 2 dragon blood fruits to take a bite. Warm energy flooded down his throat, giving his mental power another moderate boost. When he stepped out of the infinite space, Zhou Xiaoming was already huddled behind her workstation, head bowed, as if sorting cultivation data, the tips of her ears still bright red. Zhao Tianmei sat in the co-pilot's seat, legs crossed, holding a cup of mint-infused refreshment tea. Her gaze drifted back and forth between Su Hai and Zhou Xiaoming twice. "Report, boss." Zhao Tianmei set down her teacup, her tone shifting back to crisp professionalism. "Quantum resonance sonar reports the surrounding seas remain calm, with no anomalous signals." Su Hai settled into the pilot's seat, glanced at the sonar display, then leaned back in his chair to rest his eyes. The Spirit Spring, Spirit Fruits, and ammunition fusions, all necessary preparations were complete. Now he only needed to reach the battlefield and raise that stronghold using the most direct means available. The Leviathan-class heavy hunting submarine surged through the deep sea at a steady cruising speed. Its hull-mounted quantum shield shimmered with faint pale blue halos amid high-speed travel. The Ghost stealth system remained inactive, Concealment was unnecessary for the time being. Even traveling openly, this fourth-order submarine was more than enough to compel most sea creatures and players it encountered to steer clear. As time passed, the distance to the target stronghold shrank. Sporadic explosion signatures began appearing on the quantum resonance sonar screen, not torpedo detonations, but waterborne shockwave aftershocks. A battle was already underway. Zhao Tianmei cranked the sonar gain to maximum, sharpening the displayed imagery. On screen, the outlines of the Wolfman Alliance stronghold were peeled back layer by layer via quantum penetration scanning. It was a makeshift defensive emplacement built around a fleet formation, ringed with depth charge arrays and fixed torpedo launch platforms. Several submarines maneuvered rapidly within its perimeter. Outside the perimeter, attacking submarines outnumbered the defenders 2-1, launching assaults from 3 simultaneous directions. Though holding a clear numerical advantage, the attacking coalition fared poorly. The Wolfman Alliance had clearly received advance warning. Outer perimeter depth charge arrays had been repositioned. Multiple coalition submarines triggering remote detonated mines buried in seafloor silt while charging the outer defenses, their formations torn apart by concussive blasts. Fixed torpedo emplacements concealed within reef crevices unleashed precise barges targeting the flanks of coalition assault routes. The coalition had mounted 2 charges, each repelled. Several smoke-belching wreckages now littered the seabed. Most striking of all was the massive third-order submarine positioned at the stronghold's heart. It loomed above the deck of a wrecked heavy cruiser, using the wreckage for cover while bringing its full frontal firepower to bear. Barrels of its 10-barrel heavy torpedo tube spat continuous fire. Every dozen seconds, its dorsal missile silos ejected fresh missile volleys, smashing back the coalition's fiercest assaults time and again. Its hull bore an oversized wolf head insignia compared to other vessels of the Alliance. 2 glowing red crystal gems formed the wolf's eyes, appearing menacing amid battle explosions. The coalition's communication channel hummed with chaotic chatter. Team 3, pull back. Pull back. Left flank depth charges haven't been cleared. Don't push forward. That third-order boat's firepower is brutal. Our own third-order sub got crippled in that earlier ambush. Nobody can tank its frontal fire right now. Damn it. Those Wolfman bastards have moles inside our coalition. They know our entire attack plan. Those mine arrays were custom-laid for us. Does anyone have armor-piercing ordnance? Ordinary torpedoes barely scratched that sub's shield. Su Hai listened silently to the coalition's frantic transmissions, his expression unchanged. His gaze settled on the third-order submarine pouring out relentless fire, regarding it as though observing something utterly trivial. A thought crossed his mind. He turned his head slightly toward Zhou Xiaoming at the rear workstation. Xiaoming, he spoke in a calm, unhurried tone, much like an instructor posing a question. Look at the current battlefield situation. How would you fight if we joined this engagement? Zhou Xiaoming froze, caught off guard by his sudden tactical quiz. Her fingers paused hovering over the auxiliary weapon control panel. She studied the sonar display intently for several seconds. On screen, the Wolfman Alliance stronghold blazed with full defensive fire. Depth charge arrays dotted its outer perimeter, fixed torpedo emplacements hid within reef gaps, and the third-order submarine anchored at the core projected near omnidirectional fire coverage. Her brows drew together. She bit her lower lip while thinking carefully, then spoke cautiously with noticeable uncertainty. I think we could activate stealth and circle around to their rear flank through that wrecked debris field on the right. Most of their fire is oriented toward the 3 forward attack vectors, so their rear flank defenses should be comparatively thin. While that third-order submarine's attention stays fixed on the coalition forces, we launch a surprise strike from the side. Hit shield seam weak points with dark-scale piercing torpedoes. Once we take out that third-order vessel first, the remaining second-order hostiles won't pose much threat. She hastily added, her voice dropping even quieter. But that's just my idea. It might not be correct. Su Hai looked at her face, which plainly betrayed her worry that her suggestion sounded naive. The corners of his lips lifted slightly. It was a rare, faintly warm smile seldom seen on his features. He shook his head gently. There was no mockery in his tone, only patient correction. Xiaoming, your tactical reasoning is sound. Survey terrain, identify weak points, trade minimal losses for maximum gains. That is an excellent battle plan under most circumstances. He paused, redirecting his gaze toward the rampaging third-order submarine shown on the sonar feed. But remember, we are no longer operating a third-order submarine. He stood and walked over to the main display. Pointing toward the third-order submarine's signal, his voice carried unshakable confidence. We are fourth-order, Leviathan class. Against small fry like this, Do we still need to maneuver around them? Zhou Xiaoming blinked, her mouth falling slightly open, searching for words yet unsure what to say to Su Hai returned to the pilot's seat and addressed Zhao Tianmei. Charge straight ahead. No stealth activation, no detours. Advance directly through the middle of the coalition formation. A sharp smirk tugged at Zhao Tianmei's lips. She gripped the control sticks firmly. Understood. All weapon systems unlocked. Su Hai's thumb hovered over the firing trigger, his voice cold as a blade drawn from glacial depths. Initiate saturation bombardment. End this battle within 3 minutes. The Leviathan-class heavy hunting submarine surged forward from the shadows behind coalition lines. Its nuclear fusion reactor rumbled with a low roar, accelerating to maximum velocity within mere seconds. No ghost stealth engaged. No detours taken. It advanced openly, cutting straight through the coalition fleet's formation. The noisy chatter across coalition communications fell dead silent for an instant. Then chaos erupted. What speed is that? What model submarine is this? It's heading straight for that third-order boat. A heat and charge. No stealth. No evasive maneuvers. Just barreling right in. The Wolfman Alliance's third-order submarine also detected the rapidly closing unknown vessel. When its captain read the speed and tonnage readings on his sonar screen, his pupils constricted violently. He screamed fire orders. Its 10-barrel heavy torpedo tubes and dorsal missile silos unleashed their full ammunition payload simultaneously. Dozens of torpedoes and missiles streamed toward the Leviathan class, trailing dense white wake plumes. Blast fire merged into blazing walls of flame across the Leviathan class's hull, churning surrounding seawater into roiling turbulence. When the fire faded away, not a single scratch marked its hull. The quantum shield had not even activated. Its inherent indestructible durability was more than sufficient. Every skeptical voice across the coalition channel lapsed into total silence. Then counterfire arrived. Every launch tube aboard the Leviathan class erupted simultaneously. 12-barrel heavy torpedo tubes, 6-barrel vertical missile silos, lateral compact torpedo launchers. Armor-piercing properties activated. Scores of ordnance units streamed forth like cascading molten iron, pouring down upon the Wolfman Alliance stronghold. Dark-scale piercing torpedoes blended within the general ordnance barrage. Their azure light trails wove through white exhaust plumes, striking true against the third-order submarine's energy shield. Armor-piercing properties activated. Wide gashes tore across the outer shield layer. The inner shield fluctuated violently under sustained precision strikes, its steady blue hue shifting to flickering unstable white. The third-order submarine's captain desperately diverted auxiliary power to repair shield integrity. Yet every time repairs neared completion, fresh volleys of piercing ordnance slammed precisely into shield seam weak points, tearing newly restored sections apart once more. Su Hai pressed the trigger for the heavy particle cannon. A searing azure particle beam erupted from the bow gunport, carving a straight, dazzling blue column through the seawater. The beam struck squarely at the shield breach torn open earlier, holding steady against the submarine's hull. Metal vaporized and melted under extreme heat. A widening hole burned through the hull, and seawater flooded violently inward. In less than 10 seconds, the particle beam bored clean through the entire third-order submarine. Internal torpedoes and missiles detonated in catastrophic sympathetic explosions, tearing the vessel into scattered fragments. The remaining second-order Wolfman Alliance submarines were utterly outmatched. A pulsed electric field activated automatically at close quarters. Blue high-voltage auras shorted out 2 enemy submarines attempting to close in, disabling their systems. Lateral compact torpedo tubes delivered finishing blows 1v1, each torpedo striking critical components with pinpoint accuracy. Standard ordnance mixed with dark-scale piercing torpedoes. Every salvo eliminated another hostile target. From the first torpedo launch until the final Wolfman Alliance signature vanished, the entire engagement lasted less than 3 minutes. The battlefield fell quiet. The Leviathan-class heavy hunting submarine cruised slowly out from swirling battle smoke, its hull completely undamaged. Blue electrical arcs from its pulsed electric field still pulsed rhythmically across its surface. As it traversed the battlefield, its automatic salvage system pulled in scattered loot orbs. Evolution shards, gold coins, and munitions flooded inward into its storage compartment. It did not halt to accept any expressions of gratitude. Executing a smooth course change, it angled its bow toward the next stronghold and accelerated once again. Behind it, more than a dozen Wolfman Alliance submarine wrecks sank slowly down towards seafloor silt. For several long seconds, the coalition channel remained dead quiet. Then it exploded with noise. 3 minutes. 3 whole minutes. He wiped out the entire stronghold single-handedly in 3 minutes. That third-order boat, the flagship we spent nearly an hour failing to break through, got pierced clean through by one particle cannon shot. Thanks to our ally. Hats off to this ace. One voice sounded nearly incoherent with excitement. His individual firepower matches our entire fleet combined. This is what true strength looks like. A younger voice roared over comms, brimming with undisguised awe. One shot takes down a third-order flagship. Someday I want to be that powerful too. Who is he? Does anybody know his identity? Someone asked urgently. I recognize him. That must be Su Hai, ranked 3rd in the last defense line mission. Remember how he single-handedly held off a third-order corrupted entity? This has to be him. His submarine matches the description, and he's clearly grown far stronger. He must have ascended in rank. Another speaker sounded proud, as though having fought alongside a legendary figure. Su Hai? Su Hai? Su Hai. Chants of his name began erupting across the channel, growing louder as more voices joined in, like some deep-sea ritual. That's how you do it. Someday, I want to fight like him. No alliance backing, no teammates propping me up, just myself, crushing every obstacle in my path. Dream on. You're still piloting a beat-up first-order tin can. What did you just say? Bickering rippled across coalition communications, yet Su Hai paid no attention to the celebration. He had not even opened the public communication channel. Inside the Leviathan-class cockpit, he leaned back in his pilot's chair, tapping his fingers lightly against the armrest. His expression held neither excitement nor satisfaction. The fight had been far too easy, so effortless it left him feeling unengaged. Not long ago, third-order submarines had represented formidable opponents demanding elaborate planning and heavy expenditure of Abyss-series ordnance just to defeat. Now, a fourth-order vessel against third-order opponents felt like crushing ants beneath a boot. No elaborate tactics required, no flanking maneuvers, no careful ammunition conservation. Charge Hedon, unleash multiple barges, fire the particle cannon, mission accomplished. Fighting trivial foes such as these held little appeal. As this thought crossed his mind, a familiar cold system prompt echoed within his consciousness. Ding, daily intelligence system. Today's intelligence options have refreshed. Time until next refresh, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 47 seconds. A translucent pentagonal selection panel unfolded before his eyes. 5 multicolored cursors rotated slowly, each radiating its own distinct glow. Su Hai's gaze swept across the 5 available choices: supply intelligence, survival intelligence, hunting intelligence, ruin intelligence, special intelligence. Since his primary objective for the day was dealing with the Wolfmen Alliance, he reached out and tapped the read hunting intelligence option. The remaining 4 cursors dissipated instantly. The red cursor burst forth with dark crimson light. A brand new holographic hunting map overlaid his field of vision. The undersea terrain within a 30-kilometer radius is precisely rendered with dark wire frames, marking every reef, every rift valley, and every sunken wreckage site in thorough detail. On this dim topographic map, hunting intelligence automatically flags certain creatures, as well as 6 high-value targets. 6 squads of the Werewolf Alliance scattered across waters of varying directions and depths. Each target is marked by colored aperture rings whose hues indicate threat levels, ranging from blue for second-rank threats to glaring red for fourth-rank threats, with clear distinctions between tiers. Among the 6 squads, bear the threat level label moderate, composed of mixed formations of second-rank and third-rank submarines. They pose negligible danger against a Leviathan-class vessel. Yet the remaining 2 squads carry the extreme threat rating, signaled by harsh crimson aperture rings. Each of these 2 groups boasts a 4th-rank submarine as its flagship, supported by 3rd-rank escort craft and a complete fire support system. Hunting intelligence lists details for these 2 squads line by line. Target ID, WL-07 Werewolf Alliance 4th Hunting Fleet. Flagship, Shadow of the Wolf God 4th-rank heavy hunting vessel. Escort forces, 3 times 3rd-rank submarines, 6 times 2nd-rank submarines. Current position, approximately 22 kilometers south-southwest, moving toward the glow, light kelp forest. Threat level, extreme. Weaknesses, the flagship's energy shield has a 0.3-second delay during frequency adjustment. High-frequency sustained strikes can pierce its defenses. The escort craft maintain an overly compact coordinated formation, amplifying damage from area effect ordnance. Loot preview, 4th-rank submarine evolution blueprint ×1, forbidden relic, time wristwatch ×1, multiple units of 4th-rank rare alloy, assorted ammunition. Suhai's gaze lingered on the line reading 4th Rank Submarine Evolution Blueprint. Leaning back in his seat, he leaned forward slightly, a sharp glint flashing within his dark, red pupils. For his upgrade from 3rd to 4th rank, he had relied on an evolution energy core salvage from the wreckage of Wrath of the Wolf God alongside stockpiled materials. But he had uncovered no clues whatsoever for a blueprint to advance from 4th to 5th rank. Now it lay within reach, aboard the flagship of this Werewolf Alliance detachment. He read onward, scanning crew profiles appended to the prey dossier. Hunting Intelligence singled out core members of the detachment and documented their special abilities. Hall Master, Captain of Shadow of the Wolf God, Duan Xiaotian. Possessed Forbidden Relic, Time Wristwatch. Pressing the crown enforces a 60-second time freeze across a 1-kilometer radius centered on the wearer. The wearer and designated allied units may move freely within the time-stopped domain. 30-day cooldown period. Side effect. Upon use, the wearer is forced into blindness for 2 hours. Suhai's brows drew together. Those 60 seconds of absolute time freeze granted by the time wristwatch could decide countless outcomes in battle between 4th rank submarines. 60 seconds was enough to escape an utterly hopeless situation. Still, Suhai spotted a critical detail. The time wristwatch's effect was limited to a 1-kilometer radius. He could open fire from beyond that distance. So long as he held his range, or forced the enemy to expend the watch's ability first, the rest of the fight would become manageable. At that very moment, Suhai noticed another entry from the Hunting Intelligence regarding the detachment's current movements. WL-07 Current Operational Plan. En route to the Light Kelp Forest. Intends to set up an ambush along the forest's eastern edge to waylay the Allied 3rd Assault Fleet scheduled to pass through the zone. The forest hosts large shark packs led by a 5th rank mutated Shark King. Weakness. The Werewolf Alliance 4th Hunting Fleet's chosen ambush site carries inherent risks. Provoking the 5th rank mutated Shark King against them can inflict heavy casualties on their formation. A faint smirk tugged at Suhai's lips as he finished reading. A battle plan rapidly took shape inside his mind. Zhao Tianmei. Adjust heading for the Light Kelp Forest. Activate Ghost Stealth System. Maintain full invisibility at all times. He synced target coordinates to the navigation system and relayed operational orders. Zhao Tianmei immediately altered course and triggered the Ghost Stealth System. Faint ripples spread across the hull of the Leviathan-class heavy hunting vessel. Within seconds, the submarine vanished entirely from sonar displays. 0 echo, 0 thermal emission, 0 electromagnetic signature. Holding a steady speed of 70 knots, it glided silently toward the Light Kelp Forest. Suhai leaned against the command chair, tapping his fingers along the armrest as he repeatedly simulated the upcoming engagement inside his head. Duan Xiaotian's time wristwatch represented the greatest unknown variable. The relic's power was far too overpowered. A head-on confrontation carried excessive risk. The most prudent course was to force Duan Xiaotian to burn the watch's charge before facing Suhai directly. Only the 5th rank sharks dwelling in the kelp forest could push such an elite detachment centered on a 4th rank flagship into a position where it had no choice but to deploy its forbidden relic. Decades of kilometers closed quickly at maximum sustained speed. Presently, the eerie lime-green luminescence of the Light Kelp Forest came into view beyond the observation ports. Werewolf Alliance detachment signatures detected ahead. Zhao Tianmei's voice dropped to a low murmur. Range approximately 5 kilometers. They are advancing toward the forest's eastern edge. They have assumed standard ambush formation and are scouting for optimal hiding positions. Close and further. Maintain stealth. Do not alert them. Suhai turned his attention to the sonar display marking the deep forest core as a red high-risk zone. Within the dense kelp thickets, quantum resonance sonar picked up an enormous biological signature. Its signal strength far outstripped that of 3rd rank bone shark kings. The creature measured nearly 20 meters in length, shrouded by a faint energy field as it cruised slowly through submerged kelp. The 5th rank shark king. Suhai magnified the sonar feed, carefully evaluating the shark pack's position and the Werewolf Alliance detachment's path of advance. He traced an arc across the tactical map, maneuvering precisely into the gap between the shark's nesting grounds and the enemy fleet. Opening the weapons panel, he selected several conventional torpedoes. His targets were neither the Werewolf Alliance units nor the Shark King itself, but the kelp forest fringe directly above the shark nesting grounds. Several torpedoes slid soundlessly from launch tubes, trailing faint wakes. They curved through the thick kelp and detonated against reef outcrops, ringing the shark den. Fireball bursts bloomed amid the underwater woodland. Shockwaves shattered dozens of towering kelp fronds and jolted the dormant shark pack awake. Multiple third-rank bone sharks surged out from the den, followed by more than a dozen elite second-rank specimens. Finally emerged the nearly 20-meter-long fifth-rank shark king. Its eyes glowed deep violet, plate, like scales armored its body, and 4-meter-long dorsal spines flared outward in rage. Its massive tail hammered the seawater violently, pulverizing surrounding kelp and rock formations. Driven into berserk fury, the shark pack poured out of the nesting grounds, roaming the forest in search of targets to attack. The first foes they encountered were the Werewolf Alliance detachment, busy setting up ambush positions along the forest's eastern edge. Moments later, on the sonar screen, the signatures of the Werewolf Alliance fleet and the rampaging shark pack collided violently along the forest's eastern boundary. Explosive flares mixed with shark roars. Shockwaves rippled outward through the kelp forest. Vast swathes of giant kelp were ripped from the seabed, while murky silt and shattered coral swirled through the water column. Suhai instructed Zhao Tianmei to hold position at a safe perimeter outside the battlefield. Quantum resonance sonar projected every fine detail of the fight onto the main display. The fifth-rank Shark King proved even more formidable than he had anticipated. Its dash speed defied consistent sonar tracking. Each charge slammed into the Werewolf Alliance formation like an artillery shell. Instead of firing spines one at a time, it unleashed volleys. Dozens of 4-meter spines launched simultaneously, carving white cavitation trails through seawater and covering a large section of the battlefield. 1 second-rank Werewolf Alliance submarine took a direct spine impact. Against 5th-rank projectile force, its outer plating and triple-reinforced hull offered no resistance. The command compartment was pierced clean through, and all sensor signals flat-lined within seconds. Another third-rank submarine was struck sideways by the Shark King's tail hammer. Hurled aside like a toy, it crashed into nearby reefs. Its hull caved inward, and its energy shield shattered instantly. Still, the Werewolf Alliance reacted swiftly. The instant sharks appeared, Duan Xiaotian reorganized his formation. His 3 escort craft drew in tight around the flagship to form a compact defensive perimeter. The shadow of the Wolf God's 12-barrel heavy torpedo tubes and dorsal missile silos poured ordnance at maximum cyclic rate, saturating dense clusters of sharks. Duan Xiaotian's deputy Cui Meng pushed power output to its limit, doubling fire intensity. Torpedo trajectories thickened into a raging iron flood, hammering the vanguard of the shark horde. Several charging third-rank bone sharks were blown apart. One sustained repeated gill hits and perished outright. It was not enough. The fifth-rank Shark King endured the bombardment unscathed. Heavy torpedo direct strikes left nothing more than faint scorch marks across its bony plated scales. It let out a roar. A strange purple glint flashed in its eyes, and seawater surrounding it plummeted to bone-chilling cold. It activated its innate ability, summoning additional sharks to join the fight. Presently, countless fresh signatures lit up on the sonar deep within the kelp thicket. Shark signals of varying sizes surged in from all directions. Their count rocketed past 100, completely encircling the Werewolf Alliance defensive ring. Trapped by swarming sharks, 2 outer second-rank submarines were forced into a desperate retreat. One had its propellers seized by several third-rank bone sharks biting upward from below. Rotation speed plummeted, and the vessel began to list uncontrollably. Watching this unfold, Duan Xiaotian's features hardened. This fifth-rank Shark King far exceeded his projected combat capacity. Worse still, it possessed the talent to summon reinforcements. If they dragged this fight out, his detachment would be worn down and destroyed by endless sharks. Trapped within dense shark swarms and mindful of the approaching Allied fleet, he gritted his teeth and pulled forth the time wristwatch from inside his uniform. Suhai observed everything via sonar. The flagship's signature of Shadow of the Wolf God shifted slightly forward, bow-oriented toward the Shark King. In that instant, all seawater within a 1-kilometer radius centered on Shadow of the Wolf God froze. Every shark, including the fifth-rank Shark King, locked motionless in place. One could clearly see rows upon rows of sharp teeth bared in its open jaws. Spines hung suspended mid-flight. Its tail hammer remained frozen mid-swing. Within the 60-second time stasis window, Shadow of the Wolf God realigned fire, control locks across every weapon tube, targeting the Shark King's eyes and gill slits. The moment the time freeze ended, ordnance unleashed in a simultaneous salvo. Roaring explosions swallowed the Shark King whole. Its eyes were blown out, and a massive gash was torn open across its gills. The 20-meter colossus convulsed violently amid detonations. Even grievously wounded, the fifth-rank creature refused to die. Tormented by agony, it lashed its tail hammer, sending nearby Werewolf Alliance submarines careening. Then it retreated deep into the kelp forest together with surviving sharks. Silence descended across the battlefield. Suhai, observing from a distance, brightened. The Werewolf Alliance had won a Pyrrhic victory. Outer escort craft had sustained heavy losses. All second-rank submarines bore critical damage, and one third-rank unit had half its propeller assembly disabled. The flagship Shadow of the Wolf God fared comparatively better, yet its energy shield hung at critical threshold values. Deep gashes scored its hull from shark, spine impacts, and ammunition reserves had dwindled sharply. Most important of all, Duan Xiaotian had expended the charge of the time wristwatch. Zhao Tianmei, Suhai deactivated the Ghost stealth system and transferred full weapons system authority to his console. Fully unlock weapon systems. Pre-load dark, scale-piercing torpedoes. Pre-load abyss, devour torpedoes. Pre-load abyss, finality torpedoes. Commence charging heavy particle beam cannon. Zhou Xiaoming, auxiliary weapons panel is yours. Auto, lock onto all second-rank and third-rank outer targets. Prioritize propellers and weapons systems. Disable their capacity to counterattack. Leave the fourth-rank flagship to me. Acknowledged. Zhou Xiaoming rested her fingers above the targeting interface. Her breath quickened, yet her gaze stayed razor-sharp. Suhai's thumb hovered over the firing trigger. His voice cut cold as steel drawn from glacial ice. Saturation strike. Fire all ordnance. Bursting forth from shadowed perimeter waters, the Leviathan-class heavy hunting vessel's fusion reactor rumbled to life, surging to maximum speed within seconds. Every launch tube discharged simultaneously. 12 barrel heavy torpedo banks, 3 6-cell vertical missile silos, 8 compact torpedo launchers, 3 long-range cruise missile mounts. Dozens of ordnance units streamed forth in dense wakes, advancing like an unstoppable wall of steel to crush the battered Werewolf Alliance formation. Mixed amid this massive barrage streaked dozens of pale, blue trails and several pitch-black projectiles. Dark, scale-piercing torpedoes and abyss-devour torpedoes. Inside Shadow of the Wolf God's command cabin, Duan Xiaotian clutched his eyes against searing, burn-like agony. Complete blindness had descended, a side effect of the time wristwatch. Then he heard the sonar operator's scream, a scream born not merely of fear, but of soul-deep terror. Hallmaster, a submarine. One is rushing toward us at full speed. Its fire coverage zone, it covers the entire battlefield. Ordnance signatures everywhere. Dense beyond counting. Our sonar screen is flooded with its weapons contacts. Stay calm. Fighting back blinding pain, Duan Xiaotian snapped. Report vessel classification. What rank? Cannot identify model. Tonnage far exceeds 4th rank. Speed exceeds 100 knots. The sonar operator's tone warped, halfway between hysterical laughter and sobs. Hallmaster, its ordnance signatures keep rising. It is launching more munitions than our entire fleet combined. Full vessel counterattack, Duan Xiaotian roared. Fire every round we have. Shadow of the Wolf God's 12-barrel torpedo tubes fired in hasty retaliation. Surviving escort craft loosed their final salvos. Dozens of torpedoes streaked toward the Leviathan-class vessel and detonated against its hull in bursts of flame. When the fire faded, not a single scratch marked its plating. Eternal durability. Duan Xiaotian could not witness this sight, yet he listened to the operator's report shift from terror to total despair. No damage sustained. Hallmaster, 0 damage. Our torpedoes have not even marred its paintwork. Almost simultaneously, the Leviathan-class counterattack arrived. Pale, blue trails from dark, scale-piercing torpedoes tore through Shadow of the Wolf God's already failing energy shield. The outer barrier shattered instantly, and the inner shield flickered wildly under sustained follow-up bombardment. Abyss, devour torpedoes followed close behind. Pitch-black warheads plunged through shield breaches and unleashed collapsing dark, red energy spheres against the hull. One torpedo slipped through gaps in missile silo plating. Secondary explosions blew away the dorsal armor plate. Missile debris scattered through seawater like fireworks. The heavy particle beam cannon's pale, blue lance swept across Shadow of the Wolf God's frame. searing unprotected armor. Metal melted and vaporized as the beam carved a continuous gash, piercing all the way through the hull. Seawater flooded inward. The submarine's structural framework groaned under crushing deep sea pressure. Blinded and racked with pain, Duan Xiaotian felt the deck tilt beneath his feet, heard the thunder of flooding seawater, and smelled burning wiring insulation. He roared in bitter refusal. Hold position. Stabilize. Counterattack. Then the final wave of abyss. Devour torpedoes punched through the hull and detonated beneath the command cabin. Shadow of the Wolf God 4th rank vessel destroyed. The Leviathan class heavy hunting vessel did not halt. It advanced across the battlefield as its automated salvage system sprang into frantic operation. Pulse field emitters and micro tentacles built into its thorn armor plating drew in every loot orb scattered within a 3 nautical mile radius. Resources poured in torrents into onboard storage compartments. Evolution shards, gold coins, rare ores, ammunition, and the most priceless items of all, a 4th rank submarine evolution blueprint etched onto ultra-thin memory metal foil, its surface laser, inscribed with dense evolution formulas and material checklists. An antique, styled silver wristwatch with no numerical dial, only fine dark, gold rune carvings encircling its face. Its crown was set with a tiny, deep, blue crystal that felt icy to the touch. The time wristwatch, 30-day cooldown remaining. Suhai took it out and turned it over in his hands for quite a while. There were also several sets of rare, rank, and epic rank gear, along with a stockpile of ammunition. Among them was a type of ordnance called the adsorbable deep sea-timed bomb, fitted with permanent magnet suction cups on its casing. It could cling firmly to submarine hulls. Its timer could be set for anywhere from a few seconds to several hours, and its firepower matched a direct hit from a Tier 3 torpedo. Suhai told Zhao Tianmei to steer the submarine directly above the largest piece of wreckage. He then donned his diving suit and exited the hatch. Though the auto-loot system had already claimed most of the supplies, the wreckage itself was still valuable. He reached out and touched the biggest fragment of the shadow of the Wolf God. He activated universal decomposition. Silver light surged from his palm, spreading rapidly across the wreckage. The tough alloy armor peeled away layer by layer, breaking down and sorting itself into glowing orbs of processed materials. Once every scrap of wreckage had been decomposed, Suhai made one final sweep across the battlefield to make sure nothing had been missed. He then turned and swam back to the submarine, sealed the hatch, drained the compartment, and removed his mask. Zhao Tianmei had already poured him a cup of hot tea, which sat beside the control console. Suhai picked up the teacup and took a sip. Settling into the pilot's seat, he opened the storage space panel to tally the total gains from this operation. Readouts for evolution shards, gold coins, various ores, and ammunition scrolled across the screen for a long time before coming to a stop. He expanded the Tier 4 submarine evolution blueprint on the panel, and the list of required materials lit up line by line. Submarine Tier 4 evolution blueprint. Rank, Tier 4. Evolution requirements. Evolution shards, 5,000. Deep sea kryptonite, 300 units. Void crystal, 300 units. Shadow alloy, 300 units. Tier 4 evolution energy core, 1. Tier 5 marine creature core, abyss dragon whale, 1. Tier 5 marine creature core, shadow giant octopus, 1. Tier 5 marine creature core, Styx jellyfish, 1. Tier 6 marine creature core, ancient leviathan remnant, 1. Note: since marine creature cores are required, it is advised to hunt creatures of the corresponding rank to obtain them as drops. Suhai's gaze traveled slowly down the material list, and his brows drew together slightly. He already possessed enough evolution shards, but he had never laid eyes on deep sea kryptonite, void crystal, or shadow alloy, the 3 rare resources. What truly weighed on him were the final 4 entries: 3 Tier 5 marine creature cores plus 1 Tier 6 core. This meant that to advance from Tier 4 to Tier 5, a blueprint and raw materials alone were not enough. He would have to personally hunt several immensely powerful sea predators. Suhai leaned back in his pilot's chair and tapped his fingers lightly against the armrest. He stowed the blueprint and was about to tell Zhao Tianmei to set a new course when his eyes fell on the holographic map for hunting intelligence. Another Wolfman Alliance detachment with a Tier 4 submarine, designated WL-11, showed up on the display. Suhai opened the drop preview list for that detachment and scanned downwards until his gaze locked onto several lines in the middle. Drop preview. Deep Sea Kryptonite times 85. Void Crystal times 62. Shadow Alloy times 47. Suhai raised an eyebrow. These were exactly the rare core materials needed for the Tier 4 evolution. He had just been worrying about where to source them, and now the answer had come right to him. He immediately pulled up WL-11's detailed dossier and read through the target profile. The detachment was somewhat smaller than the one he had just fought, yet it still fielded 1 Tier 4 flagship and 3 escort craft. What really caught his attention was a real, time-tracking update at the bottom of the file. WL-11 current status, traveling at high speed. Heading, coordinates of WL-07's last distress signal. Expected route, will pass the western entrance of the Abyss Rift. Suhai stared at those lines for several seconds, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. This detachment was rushing to reinforce Duan Xiaotian. Presumably they had no idea that WL-07 had already been wiped out. The western entrance to the Abyss Rift that they would traverse was marked on the hunting intelligence map with a special terrain tag, an extremely narrow underwater canyon. Towering rock walls rose hundreds of meters on either side, and the passage was less than 60 meters wide, perfect ambush terrain. Zhao Tianmei, adjust heading. He synced the coordinates of that narrow canyon stretch to the navigation system. Full speed ahead. Activate Ghost Stealth System. We need to get there fast. The fusion reactor of the Leviathan class heavy hunter rumbled with a deep roar, and the vessel vanished once more into the dark deep sea. Suhai stood and walked into the storage hold. He took all the captured adsorbable deep sea-time bombs from the battlefield and laid them out on the workbench. There was a considerable quantity of them, yet each one only packed firepower comparable to a Tier 3 torpedo. Against the heavy armor of a Tier 4 submarine, they were insufficient. That was not a problem, though. He possessed infinite fusion. He picked up one adsorbable deep sea-time bomb and activated universal decomposition. Silver light wrapped around the bomb casing, disassembling its internal structure layer by layer. High energy explosive core, permanent, magnet suction cup, timed fuse, waterproof sealing layer. He carefully logged the name and proportion of every component, then opened the trade channel and searched for the corresponding base materials. The main ingredients for the high energy explosive core were deep sea blast powder and compressed energy crystal powder, both abundant on the trade channel and sold cheaply by the ton. Rare, earth permanent, magnet alloy, the raw material for the suction cups, was also inexpensive. The precision electronic components for the timed fuse cost a little more, yet paled in comparison to the price of finished bombs. Purchasing hundreds of units of the nano coating material for the waterproof sealing layer cost only a small amount of gold coins. Total acquisition costs remained low. The base materials he had bought piled up against an entire wall of the hold. He opened the fusion interface and began batch synthesis. First batch, dozens of adsorbable deep sea-time bombs went into the fusion window. Purple light flashed, and over a dozen enhanced version bombs with doubled firepower appeared on the workbench. Second batch, the dozen enhanced bombs fused into several stronger units. Their casings shifted from gray to dark silver, marked with a ring of dark gold rune patterns. Their destructive power multiplied several fold, and blast radius doubled. Third batch, several dark silver bombs were fed into the fusion interface. Purple light exploded inside the hold, bathing the entire workbench in blinding brightness. Mental power was drained rapidly as the dark silver casings broke down, reconstructed, and compressed within the radiance. When the purple glow faded, only 3 bombs remained on the workbench. They were smaller than the original adsorbable deep sea-time bombs. Their casings were no longer dark silver, but a profound glossy dark purple. No rune patterns decorated the exterior, for the entire casing itself formed a rune. Dark, purple liquid energy flowed slowly inside the metal shell, as if a mass of abyssal flame had been sealed within bomb form. The permanent magnet suction cups had been upgraded into quantum anchors. Once attached to a target, they could not be shaken loose unless the target was blown to pieces. The timed fuse had become a multi-mode unit. 4 detonation modes, timed, remote, triggered, proximity, triggered, and acoustic, triggered, could be combined freely. Suhai set the 3 bombs carefully on the workbench, and a system information panel popped up automatically. Fusion complete. Adsorbable deep sea-time bomb enhanced ×5 Abyss Anchor Mine ×1. Abyss Anchor Mine. Firepower vastly increased compared to enhanced bombs. Possesses the anchor trait. Once affixed by the quantum anchor, it cannot be removed by physical means. Possesses the annihilation trait. On impact, it It releases a high energy reaction that subjects target matter to molecular-level disintegration. Possesses multi-mode fuse, supports timed, remote, triggered, proximity, triggered, and acoustic, triggered detonation modes. Special warning. This ordnance carries immense destructive force and a wide blast radius. Use only from a safe distance. Satisfied that their power was sufficient, Suhai stowed the 3 abyss anchor mines and returned to the pilot's seat. Before long, the submarine reached the narrow canyon at the western entrance to the abyss rift. The terrain matched Suhai's expectations perfectly. Rock walls towered overhead, and the passage measured less than 60 meters across, narrowing to barely over 30 meters at its tightest choke point. For submarine formations, this was both an unavoidable route and a point of extreme vulnerability. Great colonies of luminous tube worms clung to the rock faces, their eerie green fluorescence casting an ominous glow over the confined passage. Suhai told Zhao Tianmei to park the submarine in a hollow recess in the upper canyon wall, completely concealed within shadow. He exited the vessel in person, carrying the 3 abyss anchor mines. He swam to the canyon's narrowest stretch and anchored each mine one after another at key positions on both rock walls. The quantum anchors locked solid the instant they made contact. The dark, purple casings glowed coldly beneath the tube, worm's luminescence. He set the fuses to remote detonation. He intended to press the trigger himself the moment the WL-11 flagship passed directly beneath the mines. Once the setup was finished, Suhai swam back to the submarine and sat down in the pilot's chair. On the quantum resonance sonar, WL-11 signature was closing fast from the southeast, roughly a dozen kilometers away. It would arrive soon. He leaned back in his chair, his fingers hovering over the remote detonation button, his thumb brushing gently against its edge. "Time to spring the trap," he said. Shortly afterwards, WL-11's formation showed up at the canyon entrance. 7 submarines advanced in single file. At the head sailed a Tier 3 reconnaissance craft. Behind it came 3 Tier 2 escort boats and 2 Tier 3 assault craft, with a massive Tier 4 flagship bringing up the rear. They maintained a tight, cautious formation, cruising at 40 knots, their sonar systems continuously scanning the canyon walls. Yet the Ghost stealth system rendered the Leviathan class completely invisible on their sonar displays. The Wolfman Alliance sonar operators detected nothing. Suhai's eyes locked onto the Tier 4 flagship's signal. It advanced slowly through the confined waterway, drawing ever closer to the first abyss anchor mine. He waited patiently until the flagship's signature fell fully within the combined blast radius of all 3 mines. Then he pressed the remote detonation button. All 3 abyss anchor mines detonated simultaneously. Dark, purple energy spheres burst at the canyon's narrowest point. Rushing annihilation energy tore huge chunks of rock from the surrounding walls. Shockwaves rebounded and amplified repeatedly within the confined channel, multiplying their destructive power many times over compared to open water conditions. The Tier 4 flagship sat dead center of the triple explosion. Its energy shield rippled violently under the colossal shockwave. Great rents split the outer shield. The inner shield barely absorbed the first impact, yet the entire submarine was hurled sideways dozens of meters and slammed hard against the rock wall. A deep dent crumpled its hull. Several armor plates tore loose, and seawater flooded in through the fractures. The 3 escort craft ahead suffered heavy collateral damage. One spun wildly out of control. The propulsors of 2 others were struck by flying debris, and their speed plummeted. The 2 assault craft further back sustained lighter damage but descended into chaos. Their sonar screens were flooded with explosion noise and debris echoes, leaving them unable to identify their foe. Zhao Tianmei dived down, Suhai ordered. Full firepower. The Leviathan class heavy hunter plunged from its wall, side hiding spot. Every launch tube blazed. Dark, scale armor, piercing torpedoes streaked forth on trails of faint blue light, striking the shield breaches on the Tier 4 flagship. Their armor, piercing properties punched easily through the weakened inner shield, detonating one after another deep inside the hull in bursts of dark, red flame. Dark, abyss devourer torpedoes followed close behind. Their black casings slipped through the shield cracks, releasing imploding annihilation energy deep inside the engine bays and weapons arsenals. The flagship's captain tried to organize counter-fire amid the explosions. Yet his sonar screens were swarming with incoming ordnance signatures. He could not even acquire a target lock. Much of his weaponry had already sustained damage in the initial blast. Several 12-barrel torpedo tubes were destroyed. Missile silo hatches on the upper deck were warped, trapping missiles inside their launchers. A beam of eerie blue light erupted from the Leviathan class bow, the heavy particle cannon. It struck the flagship's propulsor section with pinpoint accuracy. Sustained energy bombardment melted and vaporized casing metal, twisting and shattering turbine blades under extreme heat. Robbed of motive power, the great submarine listed heavily and began sinking toward the seabed like a crippled giant. The final dark, abyss terminus torpedo roared out of its tube, trailing a wake of liquid dark, purple energy. It slammed straight into the flagship's command deck section. A dark, purple energy sphere bloomed upon impact. After collapsing in on itself to the extreme, it unleashed devastating force. The entire forward section of the Tier 4 flagship was disintegrated at the molecular level. Command deck, bridge, forward torpedo tubes, all structures dissolved into nothing within the dark, purple radiance. The unsupported rear hull was crushed by water pressure, and its wreckage sank slowly into the silt on the canyon floor. Wolfman Alliance Tier 4 flagship destroyed ×1, escort craft destroyed ×3, assault craft destroyed ×2. Total annihilation. Suhai closed the weapons panel and flexed his fingers. Move in. Activate auto loot. The Leviathan class cruised slowly through the battlefield smoke. The auto loot system pulled in glowing orbs of spoils scattered across the canyon. Material readouts popped up line by line on the panel. Evolution shards, gold coins, ammunition, equipment, and the vital rare resources he needed. Deep sea kryptonite ×85, void crystal ×62, shadow alloy ×47. Suhai nodded slightly as he read those 3 lines. He was now significantly closer to meeting the material requirements for Tier 4 evolution. The Leviathan class heavy hunter sailed out of the canyon battlefield. The auto loot system continued to collect scattered loot orbs, and numbers on the storage panel kept ticking upwards. Suhai leaned back in his pilot's seat, contemplating his next hunting target. His gaze drifted habitually over the holographic hunting intelligence map, and then his hand froze mid-air. A signature had entered the 30-kilometer detection range at the edge of the map. This was no ordinary contact. The system marked its threat level with a black aura, darker even than the deep. Crimson used for extreme threat, black as the abyss itself. He zoomed in on the contact, and detailed information unfolded line by line. Target designation, WL-00 Wolfman Alliance main flagship formation. Flagship, Wolf Emperor Tier 5 heavy battleship. Escort assets. Tier 4 heavy hunter ×2. Tier 3 assault craft ×4. Tier 2 escort craft ×8. Current position, approximately 28 kilometers northeast, heading south, due to pass through this zone. Threat level, fatal. Personnel profiles, Wolfman Alliance Vice, Leader, Wolf Emperor Captain, Li Wanjun. Personal combat rating, S. Possesses Forbidden Relic, Thorn Vest, Quality, Epic, Effect. Once activated, any physical damage dealt to the wearer is reflected back at equal magnitude onto the attacker. Duration, 15 minutes. Cooldown, 24 hours. Note, Li Wanjun ranks 3rd within the Wolfman Alliance. He boasts outstanding close combat prowess and command talent. The Thorn Vest means anyone attempting to kill him head-on will pay a terrible price. Every wound you inflict upon him rebounds fully onto yourself. In previous boarding engagements, he has single-handedly wiped out entire coalition assault teams using this relic. His favored tactic is to deliberately expose weaknesses to draw enemy attacks, then watch his opponents perish from reflected damage. Tier 4 escort vessel, Wolf Blade Captain, Wei Tianhong. Note, Wei Tianhong is the Wolfman Alliance's most ferocious melee specialist. He once dived to the seabed wearing only a diving suit and wielding an axe, and slew a Tier 3 mutant shark in direct combat. In battle he never defends and never retreats. His fighting style is brutally aggressive, and he is Li Wanjun's most trusted assault captain. Tier 4 escort vessel, Wolf Bone Captain, 2GUN. Note, 2GUN is the Wolfman Alliance's most dangerous assassin. He excels at exiting his craft alone amid battlefield chaos, using wreckage and shadow for stealth infiltration. During one campaign, he snuck aboard an enemy Tier 3 submarine all by himself and killed every crew member aboard with nothing but a standard alloy dagger. His assassination skills are peerless, and he serves as Li Wanjun's sharpest hidden blade. Suhai read through the profiles of the 3 men several times, tapping his fingers lightly against the armrest. Among these 3 individuals, Li Wanjun possessed a cursed artifact the Thorn Vest, which reflected any damage dealt to him back onto the attacker in full. Wei Tianhong was a berserker who charged head first into battle, while Tu Jiyuan was an assassin who specialized in covert strikes. He noticed that the Thorn Vest's effect only reflected harm directed at the wearer himself. This meant the artifact offered little utility during long-range submarine artillery duels. Still, its reflection would trigger the moment anyone attempted to harm Li Wanjun directly. He was about to continue reviewing the loot preview when a real-time update popped up on his hunting intelligence feed. The Allied High Command has locked onto the position of Formation WL-00. The Allied 1st, 2nd, and 3rd main fleets are closing in from 3 directions. Estimated time of engagement, approximately 1 hour from now. Allied deployed forces, 1 times 5th, Order Submarine Han Li, Interim Deputy Commander. In Chief of the Allied Forces, Deputy Alliance Lord of the Thunder Alliance, 5 times 4th, Order Submarines, 18 times 3rd, Order Submarines, 42 times 2nd, Order Submarines. Objective: annihilate the Wolf Alliance flagship formation. Note: Han Li, Deputy Alliance Lord of the Thunder Alliance, and Zhao Tianlei's most trusted subordinate. Calm, resolute, and adept at grueling battles. Han Li's Thunder mounts 10 Wrath of Thor epic grade torpedoes, top-tier ordnance seized by the Thunder Alliance from a 5th Order ruin. Each warhead carries enough firepower to cripple a 5th Order submarine shield. Han Li's combat plan is clear and direct. Use these 10 epic grade torpedoes in open combat to shatter the Wolf Emperor's shields and create a breakthrough for the Allied forces. Suhai raised an eyebrow slightly. Wrath of Thor epic grade torpedoes, capable of piercing a 5th Order shield head-on. He opened the loot preview for this formation and scanned down the list. Evolution shards, gold coins, rare ores and equipment, all in extremely abundant quantities. Then lines of text made his pupils contract. Loot preview. Void crystal times 240, shadow alloy times 185, deep sea krypton times 155, 4th Order evolution energy core times 1. Leaning back in his pilot's chair, Suhai felt a surge of temptation. Void crystal, shadow alloy, deep sea krypton. Hundreds of units of these 3 materials combined, more than doubling his current stockpile. There was also 1/4 Order evolution energy core. He had already steeled himself for a long, fruitless hunt to track one down. Now such a core lay within reach. If only he could sink the Wolf Emperor. Suhai read on. Beneath the loot preview, the hunting intelligence displayed a tactical analysis in flickering dark, gold font. Tactical analysis. Han Li will unleash a fatal strike against the Wolf Emperor using Wrath of Thor epic grade torpedoes during open combat. Due to the Thorn Vest's reflection property, when Han Li breaks through the Wolf Emperor's shields and injures Li Wanjun, he will suffer reflected damage. Han Li is projected to perish from the counterblow, and the Thunder will sustain heavy damage. After enduring this assault, Li Wanjun's Thorn Vest will enter a 24-hour cooldown period. While the Thorn Vest is on cooldown, Li Wanjun loses his physical damage reflection. At this point, unleashing maximum firepower against the thruster section at the Wolf Emperor's stern carries a high chance of breaching its shields and crippling its power system in short order. Warning: the Thorn Vest cooldown window lasts 24 hours, yet battlefield opportunities are fleeting. Strike immediately after Han Li falls. Deliver the killing blow while the Wolf Emperor's shields have not fully recharged and Li Wanjun's defenses are at their weakest. Suhai reread the tactical analysis several times, burning every word into his memory. He closed the intelligence panel and leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. When he opened them again, his dark, red pupils held no trace of hesitation. Zhao Tianmei, alter course. He synced the Wolf Emperor formation's current coordinates into the navigation system. Full speed ahead. Activate Ghost Stealth System. The Leviathan, class heavy hunting vessel vanished silently into the deep sea darkness, speeding toward the northeast. Still some distance from target waters, the quantum resonance sonar screen already showed the 2 formations' signals slowly drawing near. The 3 Allied fleets closed in like outstretched arms from the south, east, and west. The Wolf Alliance formation huddled into a dense hedgehog formation centered on the Wolf Emperor, with 4th and 3rd Order escort craft forming a ring-shaped defensive perimeter on the outer flank. Suhai told Zhao Tianmei to hold the submarine stationary behind an underwater hill on the battlefield's periphery, completely concealed within the rock shadow. Ghost stealth rendered the Leviathan invisible on sonar. Its phase, Deflection fields silently refracted occasional Allied reconnaissance pulses away from the vessel. Time was still on his side. Judging by distance and sailing speed, the decisive clash would only erupt once both sides secured optimal attack positions. That window gave him enough time for another round of ammunition enhancement. Zhao Tianmei, keep monitoring battlefield conditions. Zhou Xiaoming, stack all spirit, power, replenishing rations by the warehouse entrance. Suhai walked into the warehouse and stood before the workbench. He hauled out his stock of Abyss Devourer torpedoes and stacked them neatly beside the workbench, then opened the fusion interface. For Abyss Devourer torpedoes were placed inside. Purple light exploded. Spirit power drained away wildly. The dragon, scale inner armor resting against his chest, emanated a warm surge of energy, buffering him from the harshest spiritual backlash. The purple glow persisted for nearly 2 minutes before cutting off abruptly. A brand new torpedo rested on the workbench. It was far bulkier than an Abyss Devourer torpedo. Its hull was neither black nor dark purple, but an extremely deep crimson, as though an entire collapsed star had been compressed into torpedo form. No runes were etched across its surface, for the hull itself formed an active miniature runic array. Dark, red liquid energy flowed like molten lava beneath the metal casing. Embedded in the warhead was a grain-sized black crystal core, within which dark, red lightning flickered continuously. Fusion complete. Abyss Devourer torpedo times 4 Abyss Collapse torpedo times 1. Abyss Collapse torpedo, further enhanced firepower built upon the Abyss Devourer torpedo. Grants the collapse a tribute. On impact, it generates a miniature gravitational singularity that crushes all surrounding matter inward. All targets within the collapse radius are dragged irresistibly toward the singularity's core and shredded. Also bears the Shield Breaker attribute, deals extra penetrating damage against shield-equipped targets. Upon impact, it forcibly neutralizes shield energy and forces the target's shields into temporary paralysis. Special warning. This ordnance carries immense destructive power. The collapse effect does not distinguish friend from foe. Deploy only from a safe distance. Extreme spirit, power consumption. Repeated rapid synthesis may lead to spirit, power exhaustion. Suhai lifted the Abyss Collapse torpedo into his hands. Its hull radiated such bitter cold that his fingertips tingled. This represented the limit of his current synthesis capacity, for Abyss Devourer torpedoes sacrificed for 1 Abyss Collapse torpedo. He drank several gulps of royal jelly left by Zhou Xiaoming by the door, feeling his spirit power slowly regenerate, and resumed fusing. Second torpedo. Third torpedo. When the third Abyss Collapse torpedo was carefully loaded into one tube of the forward 12-barrel heavy torpedo launcher, Suhai's temples throbbed sharply. The tension at the back of his head felt like a rubber band stretched to breaking point. He leaned against the warehouse wall and rested his eyes, letting his spirit power recover gradually. He then restocked his reserves of standard ordnance and dark, scale-piercing torpedoes. When he stepped back onto the bridge, the quantum resonance sonar screen showed a battlefield engulfed in flames. Full-scale combat had broken out between the Allied forces and the Wolf Alliance. On the sonar display, the undersea plane churned like a boiling cauldron, torn apart by blast shockwaves and firelight. The Allied forces struck from 3 directions at once. Han Li's thunder charged to the very forefront. The 5th Order battleship unleashed its full firepower, salvos from its 16-barrel heavy torpedo tubes and dorsal missile silos blanketed nearly half the battlefield. Remaining Allied 4th and 2nd Order submarines followed close behind, flanking the enemy in an attempt to constrict the Wolf Alliance's defensive perimeter. Yet the Wolf Alliance held formation perfectly. The Wolf Emperor stood firm at the center. 4th Order escorts absorbed most of the Allied fire on the outer ring, while 2nd and 3rd Order escorts plugged gaps in the defensive line. Li Wanjun commanded with masterful skill. Every Wolf Emperor salvo struck the weakest points in the Allied formation, and every formation adjustment stayed half a step ahead of the enemy. Wei Tianhong's Wolf blade charged through Allied ranks like a raging bull. Time and again it closed to point-blank range before opening fire, caring nothing for incoming enemy ordnance. Tu Jiyuan's Wolf bone flickered in and out of sight. He wove tactical passes through battlefield wreckage and shadows, launching precise hit and run ambushes against Allied flanks without lingering. Torpedo trails, missile arcs, and depth-charged shockwaves layered one over another across the undersea plain. Seawater turned murky. Sediment and debris swirled in ocean currents. Several Allied submarines had been sunk or crippled. The Wolf Alliance had also lost multiple outer ring escorts. Still, the tide tilted slowly in the Wolf Alliance's favor. Relying on its fifth-order shields and overwhelming firepower, the Wolf Emperor repelled wave after wave of Allied assaults against their core formation. Each Allied submarine loss diminished their overall fire density. In a war of attrition, the Allied forces could not outlast a fifth-order battleship. Hanley clearly recognized how the battle was shifting. The Thunder ceased scattered suppression fire against outer ring targets and concentrated all ordnance onto the Wolf Emperor. The Thunder's firepower surged dramatically. Its 16-barrel torpedo tubes and missile silos fired at maximum cyclic rate, hammering the Wolf Emperor's energy shields until they rippled violently. He forced Li Wanjun into a dilemma. Either divert full shield power to weather this barrage, or watch his shield shatter. Li Wanjun chose the former. The Wolf Emperor's energy shields thickened and solidified in an instant. The pale blue outer shield radiance blazed, deflecting most of the Thunder's fire. Li Wanjun's calculations were precise. For all its ferocity, the Thunder could not sustain such output indefinitely. If he endured this assault until Allied ammunition ran low, the counterattack would belong to him. Hanley had been waiting for exactly this moment. The instant the Wolf Emperor diverted all shield energy forward, Hanley issued the launch order. Hatch cover slid open on the Thunder's specialized dorsal silos. 10 Wrath of Thor epic grade torpedoes activated simultaneously. Lightning runes crawled across their hulls. Each warhead housed a deep, blue thunder crystal storing lightning energy harvested from a fifth-order ruin. They ejected from their silos one after another, trailing blinding arcs of blue, white electricity, carving 10 straight lightning, bright paths through the water. The second Li Wanjun spotted those 10 blue, white streaks on sonar. His pupils constricted violently. Dread washed over him. Yet he kept his composure. His fingers brushed the dark, gold thorn vest over his chest, and a cold smirk tugged at his lips. The thorn vest's ability. Any physical harm inflicted upon its wearer would be reflected back at the attacker with equal force. The greater the destructive power of Han Li's torpedoes, the deadlier the reflected blow. The first Wrath of Thor slammed into the Wolf Emperor's forward shields. Blue, white lightning energy detonated across the shield surface. Countless fine electric arcs spread like spider webs across the entire spherical barrier. Visible cracks spiderwebbed across the outer shield under the brutal energy impact. The second and third torpedoes struck the exact same spot in quick succession. Cracks spread rapidly. The inner shield glow shifted from steady to erratic flickering. Torpedoes 4 through 7 pierced the outer shield and detonated against the inner barrier. Shrill alarm sirens blared inside the bridge. The shield strength gauge plummeted from green to red. The moment blast shock waves washed over him, Li Wanjun's thorn vest flared dark gold, its reflection effect activated. Torpedoes 8 and 9 smashed through the inner shield and detonated against the Wolf Emperor's hull. A massive gash tore open the forward armor. Seawater flooded inward in torrents. Li Wanjun was hurled hard against the bulkhead by explosion force. The thorn vest's dark, gold radiance blazed at maximum intensity. Reflected damage peaked in that very instant. The 10th Wrath of Thor homed straight through the breached hull and detonated deep within the Wolf Emperor's bridge section. The entire bridge was blown away. Forward armor and command deck disintegrated into shrapnel. In the split second before detonation, Li Wanjun was fully enveloped by the thorn vest's dark, gold glow, pushing its reflection power to its absolute limit. But the reflected damage had already traveled back to the Thunder. Hanley stood at the Thunder's command station. The moment the 10th Wrath of Thor struck the Wolf Emperor, indescribable agony exploded inside his chest, as though an invisible giant hand had seized and crushed his heart. The thorn vest reflected half the total destructive force of all 10 epic grade torpedoes. No human body could endure such magnitude of impact. He glanced down at his chest. No external wounds, no blood, yet his internal organs had been shattered by the backlash. His lips moved. He tried to order his deputy to maintain command, but blood surged up his throat and choked off his voice. Hanley slumped slowly and crashed heavily onto the command deck plating. Dead silence fell over the Thunder's bridge. His deputy lunged to catch him, but it was too late. Hanley's pulse had vanished. His eyes remained open, the light in his pupils fading fast. A hoarse voice from the Thunder's deputy crackled across the Allied command channel. Deputy Commander, in Chief, killed in action. Wolf Emperor heavily damaged. Bridge destroyed. Li Wanjun's status unknown. The Allied channel fell silent for several long seconds. Then the Thunder deputy's voice roared across comms. Raw, hoarse, heavy with grief and rage. Damn it! Damn it! All units listen, the Wolf Emperor's bridge is gone. Even if Li Wanjun lives, he is gravely wounded. Strike now. Advance full force. Avenge the Deputy Commander-in-Chief. Grief ignited Allied morale. Every operational submarine opened fire and charged. Remaining dozens of vessels bore down upon Wolf Alliance formations from 3 directions. At that exact moment, Suhai struck. Before the firelight from the 10th wrath of Thor's detonation had fully faded, Suhai received the long-awaited prompt on his hunting intelligence panel. The Thorn Vest's cooldown timer had begun. Having weathered the full force of 10 epic, grade torpedoes, Li Wanjuan's Thorn Vest had expended its reflection capacity and entered cooldown. Moreover, the Wolf Emperor's bridge lay obliterated. Its command systems were completely crippled. This was the window the tactical analysis had foretold. Zhao Tianmei, full thrust. Approach from the Wolf Emperor's stern. The Leviathan-class heavy hunting vessel deactivated Ghost Stealth instantly. Its fusion reactor roared, pouring all power into thrusters, and its speed rocketed to maximum. Bursting forth from behind the underwater hill, it cut through the chaotic battlefield flank along a coldly precise arc, circling around to the Wolf Emperor's direct rear. Li Wanjuan's Thorn Vest remained on cooldown. The Wolf Emperor's shields were still recharging. Defenses around its stern thruster section were dangerously vulnerable. Allied and Wolf Alliance surviving escorts clashed furiously on the flanks. No one noticed the black submarine seizing that fatal firing position. Every launch tube popped open simultaneously. 12 barrel heavy torpedo tubes, 3 6-barrel vertical missile silos, 8 compact torpedo launchers, 3 long-range cruise missile racks, all fully loaded. Pale, blue trails from dark, scale-piercing torpedoes, dark hulls of Abyss Devourer torpedoes, crimson streaks of blaze-piercing torpedoes, plus the 3 dark, red Abyss collapse torpedoes. Suhai unlocked them all. The fire control system locked every single warhead onto one single point. The weakly shielded thruster zone at the Wolf Emperor's stern. Full volley fire. Every launch tube aboard the Leviathan spat fire at once. Dozens of projectiles streamed forward in dense trails, advancing like an onrushing wall of steel toward the Wolf Emperor's stern. White trails from standard ordnance formed the first barrage. Crimson, streak blaze-piercing torpedoes followed close behind. Pale, blue-dark, scale-piercing torpedoes wove through the barrage. Black, hulled Abyss Devourer torpedoes glided silently through seawater. Wolf Emperor sonar operators detected the incoming threat at the very last moment. Yet Li Wanjun was still dazed by the brutal concussive blows. Command systems lay in ruins. No effective defensive orders could be issued. 2/3 order escorts stationed astern spun hastily to intercept, yet their fire meant nothing against the Leviathan's saturation strike. First wave, standard ordnance and blaze-piercing torpedoes slammed into the stern shields. Detonations sent shockwaves rippling across incompletely restored barriers. Second wave, dark, scale-piercing torpedoes struck the exact same zone. Their piercing properties etched fine cracks across the weakened shields. Third wave, Abyss Devourer torpedoes slipped through fissures in the shielding and burst inward, releasing dark, red, imploding energy spheres. A huge gap was torn in the shield layer. Then the 3 Abyss collapsed torpedoes hit simultaneously. The first impacted the thruster casing and burst into a dark, red energy sphere, collapse activated. A miniature gravitational singularity formed at ground zero, dragging seawater, metal fragments, and residual shield energy inward. Thruster hull plating crumpled and shredded under singularity pull like cardboard. The second burrowed inside the thruster assembly and detonated among spinning turbine blades. The collapse singularity warped, compressed, and pulverized high titanium turbine components into a mangled ball of scrap. The Wolf Emperor's power output dropped to 0 in an instant. The third pierced the shattered thruster framework and penetrated deep into the engine compartment. Dark, red annihilating energy erupted within the core. The entire stern of the Wolf Emperor blew out from the inside. Flames and shrapnel gushed through rent metal. The blast carved a dozens-meter-wide vacuum bubble through surrounding seawater. On sonar, the Wolf Emperor's signal flickered wildly, then vanished entirely. The 5th Order heavy battleship, flagship of the Wolf Alliance, had been blown into 3 sections under Suhai's single massive saturation strike. Wreckage sank slowly into silt covering the undersea plain. Debris and oil spread outward with ocean currents. The Allied forces' channel fell dead silent for several full seconds. Then it exploded. The Wolf Emperor, The Wolf Emperor has been sunk. Who did it? Deputy Commander Han just fell, who landed the finishing blow on the Wolf Emperor. I see it. A submarine. No, that is not one of ours. Unidentifiable model. It cut in from the right flank of the battlefield, speed exceeding 100 knots. It struck right after Deputy Commander Han's assault and blew the Wolf Emperor's stern clean off. It's Suhai. The Suhai who tore through the corrupted entities on the defense line last time. The one from the 47th defense line. I have his sonar signature on file. It's definitely him. A 4th Order submarine sank a 5th Order capital ship. Full-scale counterattack. The Thunderbolt's first officer shouted first over the Allied forces channel, and everyone roared in response. Avenge Deputy Commander Han. Annihilate the Wolfman Alliance. Allied morale erupted at that moment. Several fleets that had been crushed almost to breaking point surged forward in a ferocious counter-charge. Dozens of remaining submarines pressed in on 3 sides against the Wolfman Alliance formation. Chaos engulfed the Wolfman Alliance. With the Wolf Emperor sunk and Li Wanjun killed in action, their command structure collapsed completely. Wei Tianhong and Tu Jiyuan fought independently, yet without the fire support of their 5th Order flagship, their 2 4th Order escort vessels fell back under assault from multiple Allied 4th Order submarines. Wei Tianhong's Wolf Blade was trapped by concentrated Allied fire. Its shield developed multiple breaches, and it was blown to fragments under the combined fire of several 4th Order submarines. Tu Jiyuan's Wolfbone attempted to flee using its speed advantage, but Allied submarines cut off its retreat from the flank. It was sunk mid-escape. The remaining escort vessels on the perimeter were quickly overwhelmed by the Alliance's numerical superiority. Flames of explosion flickered across the seabed plain as Wolfman Alliance signatures vanished one after another. When the final Wolfman Alliance signature disappeared, the undersea plane fell quiet. The Alliance began mopping up operations. Damaged submarines queued for repairs, and supply shuttles distributed ammunition across the fleet. Yet every so often, all eyes drifted toward the black submarine hovering quietly at the edge of the battlefield. It took no part in the cleanup and opened no public channel to accept gratitude. It merely hung in place, blue arcs of pulsed electric field flickering rhythmically across its hull. Suhai leaned back in his pilot's chair and closed the weapons panel. The Leviathan class's auto salvage system had already retrieved most of the material orbs scattered across the battlefield. Numbers on the storage panel kept climbing. He glanced over the loot list. Void crystals, shadow alloys, deep sea kryptonite, each tallied well above 100 units. That 4th Order evolution energy core rested quietly within storage space. Coupled with other rare materials and equipment scavenged from the battlefield, this engagement's haul far exceeded expectations. Inside the cockpit, Zhao Tianmei let out a long breath, released her grip on the control sticks, and shook her aching knuckles. Zhou Xiaoming stood up from the auxiliary weapons station. Staring at the shifting numbers on the storage panel and the glowing core, her large eyes sparkled with excitement. Captain, we got the core. Zhou Xiaoming leaned over to study the loot list. 4th Order evolution energy core, plus all these rare materials. We're only a few short of everything we need to upgrade from 4th Order to 5th Order. Leaning back in the co-pilot's seat, Zhao Tianmei sipped her mint tea, refilled many times already. Han Li's Wrath of Thor stunned the Wolf Emperor, and our boss moved in for the kill. Li Wanjun never even knew who blew him up. Suhai paid little heed to their excited chatter. Leaning against his chair, he tapped his fingers lightly on the armrest and stared at the 3 sets of figures on the storage panel. Deep sea kryptonite, void crystals, shadow alloy. Stockpiles of each had broken past 200. The 4th Order evolution energy core was secured. The road ahead remained long, yet the path forward was clear. Zhao Tianmei, pull us away from this sea area. Find a quiet spot to rest and resupply. Suhai closed the panel and spoke. We burned through far too much ammunition. We need to reorganize our supplies. Understood, Zhao Tianmei replied crisply. She set a course toward deep sea hills far from the battlefield and contamination zones. The Leviathan class heavy hunting submarine turned, its bow pointing toward the dark depths. Its fusion reactor hummed low as it slipped away into the dim ocean. Cruising at steady speed through shadowy waters, its quantum resonance sonar refreshed scans every few seconds. No hostile signatures registered within 30 kilometers. Suhai leaned back in his seat and rubbed his temples. From the rift ambush to the forest decoy operation and the final showdown against the Wolf Emperor, he had fought non-stop. Though spirit had been sustained by the spirit spring and consumable fruits, bone, deep exhaustion lingered beneath. He rose from the pilot's seat and stepped into the dimensional space. The spirit spring shimmered with pale blue luminescence, thin wisps of white steam curling above its surface. He stripped off his outer garments and folded them beside the pool. His physique, enhanced by the shark heart augmentation, displayed firm, well-defined musculature. Faint scale impressions remained on his skin after removing his dragon, scale, inner armor. He stepped into the pool. Warm water rose to his chest, and he let out a low sigh of relief. Gentle, surging energy seeped through his skin, traveling through every vessel across his body before converging in his mind. Mental strain from repeated ammunition fusions melted away. The throbbing in his temples subsided, and faint dark flickers at the edge of his vision vanished entirely. He sensed his attribute caps rising slowly yet steadily. Stamina, strength, agility, spirit, each improved subtly beneath the spring's nourishment. As he rested with eyes closed, soft footsteps sounded at the entrance. Zhou Xiaoming pushed open the door, carrying a tray holding newly ripened fruits and freshly brewed mint-infused tea. Flustered, she set the tray down on a nearby shelf and hurried away. She did not stop until she reached the galley. Bracing her hands against the countertop, she gasped for breath, the tips of her ears burning bright red. She patted her cheeks and took a deep breath, her expression hardening with resolve. Their captain had fought all day long. Through the Abyss Rift, the ancient battlefield, the Wolfman Alliance trap, the glow, algae forest, and the decisive battle that sank the Wolf Emperor. He had kept pushing onward with scarcely a proper meal. Zhao Tianmei had also stayed glued to her station with barely any rest. They can't keep fighting on empty stomachs, Zhou Xiaoming muttered to herself. Rolling up her sleeves, she opened refrigerators and storage compartments and began bringing ingredients to the counter. She gathered fresh produce grown in the dimensional space's planting zone. Deep sea energy cabbages, glow mushrooms, mutant sea, sprout fronds, and the first batch of hydrothermal golden fruits she had ripened with her special talent. These crops had been carefully nurtured with deep sea planting soil and spirit spring water. She also retrieved premium goods purchased from trade channels, a block of beautifully marbled mutant snowflake fish meat, several deep sea snow crab pincers, and a third-order mutant silver salmon fresh from cold storage. She scaled and gutted the silver salmon, slicing it paper-thin with a dragon bone dagger. Some fillets were wrapped in deep sea energy cabbage leaves and arranged on a steaming tray, drizzled with mutant seaweed umami sauce and a few drops of deep sea sesame oil for steaming. Other fillets were marinated in hydrothermal golden fruit juice mixed with chili powder for spicy, sour fish slices. The snowflake fish was cut into thick portions. Placed onto a searing electromagnetic pan, it seared quickly, locking in juices and developing an appealing brown crust. She flipped the pieces, seasoned them with sea salt and freshly ground black pepper, and topped each with a pat of melting butter before plating. She cracked open deep sea snow crab pincers to reveal plump white flesh. Half were steamed plain. The rest were stir-fried with ginger and green onion. Sliced glow mushrooms and mutant sea sprout fronds were flash-fried over high heat and finished with a splash of oyster sauce. Hydrothermal golden fruits were cored and cut into crescents, tossed together with deep sea silver fruit flesh for a refreshing fruit platter. She simmered fish bones and deep sea kelp into creamy white soup, enhanced with fine glow, mushroom spore powder. For staple food, she cooked rice harvested for the first time from her dimensional space plots. Each grain glistened, releasing a unique fragrance blending jasmine and marine mineral notes. She also found a small sack of mutant purple sweet potatoes. Steamed chunks were mashed, blended with honey and deep sea milk to make a smooth dessert. Within under an hour, the counter bore a full spread of dishes: steamed silver, salmon cabbage rolls, spicy, sour fish slices, pan, seared snowflake fish, ginger, scallion stir, fried crab pincers, glow, mushroom sea, sprout stir, fry, hydrothermal, golden fruit and silver, fruit platter, rich fish, bone soup, and purple sweet potato dessert. At the center sat a large bowl of steaming mutant rice. A rich aroma filled the cockpit. Savory, spicy, sweet, and briny notes mingled, transforming the cold combat vessel's interior into a warm dining space deep beneath the waves. Wiping beads of sweat from her forehead, Zhou Xiaoming smiled contentedly at her handiwork. At that moment, Suhai walked out from the dimensional storage area. He wore clean clothing, his hair still damp from the spirit spring bath. His dragon scale inner armor rested against his skin, dark, gold scale patterns peeking out from his collar. Rest had greatly improved his condition. His gaze was sharp and clear once more, and his movements steady. Spotting him, Zhou Xiaoming broke into a bright grin and hurried forward. Captain, you're done resting. Come eat. I made all this while you were in the spring. It's still hot. Suhai stepped to the counter and looked over the lavish spread. Translucent steamed fish rolls, vivid spicy sour fillets, sizzling pan, seared fish, neatly cracked crab pincers, vibrant stir, fried vegetables, bright fruit platter, milky soup, and silky purple sweet potato dessert. Every dish clearly reflected careful preparation. Before he could speak, Zhou Xiaoming called toward the pilot station. Tianmei, time for food. Zhao Tianmei had already smelled the food. She set the submarine to semi-autonomous cruise, double, checked all automated security systems, 30-kilometer quantum, resonance sonar coverage, ghost, stealth mode active, weapons on standby, and phase, deflection shield running at low power. Satisfied that all systems were secure, she stood and stretched her stiff shoulders. Coming. I could smell this from the pilot's seat. It's been driving me crazy. She strode over and halted, eyes widening. Xiaoming, you've turned our galley into a Michelin star kitchen. Steaming, stir, frying, pan, searing, soup, dessert, fruit platter, 8 dishes for 3 of us. Zhou Xiaoming twisted her apron nervously. You two fought non-stop all day without a proper hot meal. I just wanted us to have a decent feast. Sit down, eat while it's warm. The 3 gathered around the counter. Suhai picked up chopsticks and sampled a steamed silver salmon cabbage roll. Delicate fish texture paired with crisp, sweet cabbage. Sesame oil and seaweed sauce brought out layers of flavor. System prompt. Consumed steamed silver, salmon cabbage roll rare, grade dish. Stamina +1, agility +1, spirit +2 first, time consumption bonus. Suhai paused. He tried a spicy sour fish slice. Sweet, sour hydrothermal, fruit juice paired with mild chili contrasted beautifully against tender fish. Another notification appeared. Consumed spicy sour fish slices rare, grade dish. Strength +1, spirit +1 first, time consumption bonus. He set down his chopsticks and looked at Zhou Xiaoming. She watched him anxiously, fingers twisting her apron. All of this, Suhai said seriously, made from crops you grew yourself? Zhou Xiaoming nodded vigorously, obvious pride in her tone. Yes. Deep sea energy cabbage, glow mushrooms, mutant sea, sprout fronds, hydrothermal golden fruits, silver, fruits, rice, purple sweet potatoes, all grown in the dimensional space. Watered with spirit, spring water, and planted in deep sea soil. I accelerated ripening on some using my talent. These ingredients already carry stat bonuses. When combined through cooking, the system classifies them as rare, grade dishes with amplified bonuses compared to eating raw materials. She grew more animated, eyes sparkling. The salmon roll, fish alone only boosts agility, but paired with energy cabbage for steaming, we get dual stat bonuses. The spicy sour slices use hydrothermal, golden, fruit marinade. The fruit's spirit boost multiplies when combined with fish protein. Her voice softened, laced with nervousness. Does it taste all right, Captain? Suhai looked at her earnest, hopeful face. A faint, warm smile tugged at his lips. It is far more than all right. He bit into pan, seared snowflake fish, chewed slowly, and swallowed. Ingredient quality, cooking technique, stat amplification, you have excelled on all 3 fronts. Zhou Xiaoming's eyes lit up like stars, unable to suppress her smile. Beside her, Zhao Tianmei ate heartily. She bit into stir, fried crab pincers, and sipped fish, bone soup. Hearing Suhai's praise, she swallowed quickly and chimed in. Xiaoming, your cooking is incredible. I used to think I could cook, but compared to you, I'm just making instant noodles. These crab pincers beat any seafood restaurant back on land. The ginger, scallion flavor soaks all the way into the meat. She tried the glow, mushroom sea, sprout stir, fry, and sighed happily. The mushrooms are crisp, the sprouts tender, oyster, sauce flavor bursts in every bite. You're officially our full-time chef. I wholeheartedly approve. Praise dyed Zhou Xiaoming's cheeks bright pink. She bowed her head, yet her smile persisted. I'm glad you like it. I will keep experimenting. I have plenty more recipe ideas to try, and hope to create dishes granting even stronger stat bonuses. Suhai took a bite of rice. Plump, glistening grains released jasmine and marine, mineral fragrance. Mixed with spicy, sour fish sauce, every mouthful was satisfying. The 3 finished the entire spread. Portions had been generous, yet days of brutal combat had greatly raised their appetites. Even the purple sweet potato dessert and fish bone soup were completely finished. Zhao Tianmei leaned back, hand resting lightly on her full stomach, and sighed contentedly. Nothing beats a hot meal after fighting. I feel human again. Suhai drank some water, feeling gentle energy spread from his stomach throughout his body. Though individual bonuses from the rare, grade dishes were modest, their wide coverage added up to substantial gains across stamina, strength, agility, and spirit. By the time they finished eating, the Leviathan class had reached sheltered deep-sea hills. Sonar showed no threats within 30 kilometers. Low reef ridges surrounded a natural hollow, well, shielded on 3 sides, perfect for temporary anchoring. Zhao Tianmei brought the submarine to rest within the hollow. She disabled active sonar, retaining only passive listening and automated sentry systems. Suhai stood up and spoke to the 2 women. We've been fighting non-stop lately. You 2 have worked hard. Zhao Tianmei, Zhou Xiaoming, you'll take turns keeping watch. One takes the first shift while the other gets some sleep, then you switch after a few hours. Zhao Tianmei was about to say, Boss, you've pushed yourself harder than anyone. You should rest first. But Zhou Xiaoming cut in ahead of her. Captain, you've worked so hard too. You're far more exhausted than us. Tianmei was at the controls, but you were on the front line in every battle. You synthesized all the ammunition, devised every battle plan, and yours was the spirit force bearing the greatest strain. You ought to get some rest first. Zhao Tianmei nodded in agreement. Boss, Xiaoming is right. Go and rest. We can handle the watch rotation. Get a proper sleep. Suhai shook his head, his tone calm, yet unyielding. Wars have been frequent recently, and ammunition consumption is soaring. Our stockpile in the warehouse has dropped below the safety threshold. I need to synthesize another batch of ammunition before I can rest easy. Sort out your shift schedule first. Zhao Tianmei takes the first watch, Zhou Xiaoming goes to sleep, and you swap shifts in a few hours. I'll rest once I finish making the ammunition. The 2 exchanged a glance. They knew Suhai well. Once he made up his mind, no one could persuade him otherwise. Very well. Zhao Tianmei stood and patted Zhou Xiaoming on the shoulder. Xiaoming, go get some sleep. I'll take the first shift. Come relieve me once you wake up. Zhou Xiaoming nodded, bid them good night, then turned and walked into her cabin. Suhai headed to the warehouse and stopped before the workbench. He opened his storage interface and took stock of all his supplies. He had amassed a large quantity of evolution shards. His gold coin balance had surged to an astonishing sum after selling materials previously, and reserves of various rare ores were abundant. Ammunition was what truly needed replenishing. After several major battles, most of his dark-scale piercing torpedoes had been expended. Only a handful of Dark Abyss devouring torpedoes remained, and every single Dark Abyss collapsed torpedo had been fired. Though he still had several thousand conventional torpedoes in storage, such reserves were far from sufficient to sustain the firepower output of a Leviathan-class submarine. He began the synthesis process. He started with the most basic ordnance. He loaded wrecked degraded torpedoes and shattered warheads into the synthesis interface in batches. Purple light flickered, and standard torpedoes were produced one after another. 20 wreckages yielded 5 standard torpedoes, 40 wreckages produced 10. Batch after batch was processed, and the number of conventional munitions on his interface climbed steadily. Next came the dark-scale piercing torpedoes. 10 standard torpedoes fused to form one dark-scale piercing torpedo, with faint indigo light patterns flowing across the ordnance body. He completed several rounds of synthesis and stockpiled a substantial number of dark-scale piercing torpedoes. Row upon row of indigo indicator lights lit up on the ammunition racks. Then he moved on to Dark Abyss devouring torpedoes. 40 dark-scale piercing torpedoes were placed into the synthesis interface. Purple light burst forth inside the warehouse, illuminating the workbench as bright as daylight. His spirit force drained rapidly as the dark-scale ordnance bodies decomposed, restructured, and compressed within the radiance. The resulting black torpedoes had mirror, smooth hulls, with dark golden runes etched on the warheads pulsing slowly like breathing. Once this was done, dull throbbing started at his temples, and the tight ache at the back of his head returned. He leaned against the warehouse wall to rest his eyes for a moment, then stripped off his top and stepped into the spirit spring. As he rested against the pool edge, eyes closed, letting the energy of the spring seep into every cell, the warehouse door creaked open softly. Suhai opened his eyes and saw Zhao Tianmei. She wore a loose bathrobe and held a towel in her hand. She had just finished her first watch and planned to come soak in the spring to unwind before the shift change. She paused when she caught sight of him. He leaned against the pool wall, forearms resting on the edge, his shoulders and chest exposed above the water. Droplets slid down the contours of his pectoral muscles and abs. Unlike Zhou Xiaoming, who would have fled flustered, Zhao Tianmei's lips curled slightly, a glint of mischief flashing in her eyes. She stepped inside without hesitation. "Boss, you're here too," she said with a faint hint of amusement as she walked over to the edge of the pool. She untied the sash of her bathrobe. The fabric slipped off her shoulders and pooled around her ankles. She stepped into the spring unclothed and sat down opposite Su Hai. Warm water rose to her chest. She leaned back against the pool wall, resting her arms on the edge, and tilted her head to look at him, open amusement shining in her gaze. Su Hai said nothing and leaned back to close his eyes and recuperate. Zhao Tianmei fell silent as well, quietly soaking in the spring. Occasionally, she stirred the water with her toes, sending ripples spreading outward beneath the pale blue glow. After some time passed, Zhao Tianmei rose from the spring. Water droplets trailed down her body as she walked to the edge to pick up her towel. She dried herself unhurriedly, then retrieved clean undergarments from her storage space. Once dressed, she did not leave immediately. She turned to face Su Hai and slowly spun on the spot, letting him see her clearly from every angle. A playful smile lingered on her lips. "Boss, how do I look? Have you felt even the slightest stir?" Su Hai's gaze swept over her. His expression remained calm, yet his Adam's apple bobbed slightly. Zhao Tianmei did not miss this small tell. Her smile grew more confident. She casually draped the bathrobe over her shoulders, then swayed her hips and departed, leaving Su Hai alone in the spring. Su Hai leaned against the pool wall and closed his eyes, thinking to himself that Zhao Tianmei was courting trouble. His spirit force had not fully recovered, so he did not dwell on the incident. He steadied his mind and let the spring energy continue permeating his body. He ate the remaining dragon blood fruits and silver leaf fruits set on the tray beside the pool. Warm currents spread from his stomach to every limb, gradually mending the spirit exhaustion brought on by synthesizing ammunition. When his spirit force recovered to roughly 90% capacity, he climbed out of the spring, dried off, and got dressed. He donned his dragon scale inner armor once more. Dark golden scale patterns glinted faintly under the lights, and his overall condition had returned to an excellent state. He exited the dimensional space, intending to head to his quarters to rest. The corridor lighting had switched to dim yellow night mode, and the constant temperature system maintained a comfortable 24 degrees Celsius. Su Hai's footsteps echoed softly against the alloy floor before he halted at the corner ahead. Zhao Tianmei was leaning against the wall at the bend, arms crossed over her chest, still wearing the loosely draped bathrobe. The collar gaped open, revealing a glimpse of her collarbone and the edge of her undergarments. She had clearly waited for him on purpose. This was the only corridor leading from the warehouse to the sleeping quarters, and she had calculated he would pass this way. "Boss." Her voice sounded lazy and teasing as she tilted her head, that familiar mischievous smile playing on her lips. "You still haven't answered me. What did you think of how I looked?" Su Hai stopped and stared at her. His dark red pupils glinted under the dim corridor lights, the golden rings along their edges shining brighter than usual. The heart of the shark stirred faintly within him, responding to long, suppressed instincts. His expression stayed composed, yet a dangerous light unlike normal flickered in his eyes. Zhao Tianmei saw that glint. Her heart skipped a beat, and her smile stiffened. She had only meant to tease him, hoping to crack his perpetually calm demeanor. But at this moment, she suddenly feared she had pushed things too far. Su Hai took a step toward her. Zhao Tianmei instinctively stepped back until her back pressed against the cold alloy wall. He planted his hands on the wall on either side of her head, trapping her between himself and the bulkhead. He stood so close she could catch the faint mineral scent of spring water mixed with his dragon scale inner armor. His steady warm breath fell on her forehead, sending a faint tingling sensation across her skin. His dark red eyes stared down at her, his gaze moving slowly from her face to her lips, then to the section of her chest half, hidden by the bathrobe collar. Zhao Tianmei's breath caught. Her hands pressed involuntarily against the wall, fingers curling gently. Her heart raced so fiercely she feared it would burst from her chest. She opened her mouth, ready to speak, perhaps another jest, perhaps a word of surrender, yet every phrase stuck in her throat. Only quick, shallow breathing remained. Color flooded her cheeks, spreading to her earlobes, and then her neck. The confident, quick-witted Zhao Tianmei vanished in that instant. In her place stood a young woman cornered in the corridor, mind blank, heart pounding wildly. More than half an hour later, Su Hai finished speaking with Zhao Tianmei and turned toward his bedroom. His footsteps faded down the corridor, leaving Zhao Tianmei leaning against the wall, her legs still weak as her heart continued hammering. She slowly lifted a hand to touch her burning cheeks, then bit her lower lip and smiled. It was not her usual cunning grin, but a flustered, sweet smile that touched a soft spot deep inside her. "This boss," she murmured, a hint of unknowing fondness in her tone. Suhai returned to his cabin, set a 6-hour alarm on the bulkhead panel, and lay down on the bed. He fell into deep slumber the moment his head touched the pillow. It was dreamless, uninterrupted rest. All he could hear was the gentle airflow of the climate system and the faint low hum of the fusion reactor deep within the decks, the heartbeat of the Leviathan-class submarine, the reassuring white noise for everyone aboard. 6 hours later, the alarm sounded precisely on schedule. Suhai opened his eyes and pushed back the blanket to sit up. 6 hours of high-quality sleep, aided by the restorative effects of the spirit spring and spirit fruits, had returned him to peak condition. His mind was sharp, his muscles brimming with strength, and his senses acute enough to pick up Zhao Tianmei's steady breathing in the adjacent cabin. He stretched his neck, got dressed, and stepped out into the cockpit. Zhou Xiaoming sat in the co-pilot seat monitoring the instrument panels. She turned at the sound of his footsteps and brightened immediately. "Captain, you're awake. Did you sleep well?" Suhai nodded and took the pilot's seat, glancing at the sonar screen. No contacts were detected within 30 kilometers, and the automatic alert system had not triggered any warnings. He turned to Zhou Xiaoming, his tone gentle. "I'll take over watch duty here. You've been busy tending crops, preparing meals, and covering shifts. You've earned a proper shower and rest." Zhou Xiaoming nodded, rose from the co-pilot's seat, and walked into the corridor. Suhai leaned back in the command chair and opened the trade channel. He first checked the back-end statistics out of habit. Automatic sales of mineral water and oxygen had continued running, accumulating a sizable passive income over this period. Then he checked his gold balance. Current gold balance, 1,284,699. Suhai raised an eyebrow slightly. Over 1,280,000. From small orders selling oxygen tanks for dozens of gold coins at the very beginning, to windfalls from bulk sales of rare materials, and continuous automated transactions since then, his gold reserves had reached a figure most survivors could only dream of. This fortune allowed him to purchase nearly any materials he needed through the trade channel and remove financial worries for a long time to come. Just as he prepared to close the interface, a notification chimed on his private communication channel. It was not the noisy public channel broadcast, but the encrypted private line only available to confirmed contacts. The message came from Xiaqing Lan, vice president of the Undersea Commercial Bank. He accepted the call, and video feed unfolded on the main display. Xiaqing Lan looked as impeccably poised as ever. Amber eyes glinted subtly under the screen light, and she wore her signature smile, one that never quite reached her eyes. She wore a new dark blue high-collared uniform with a dark golden emblem depicting scales balanced around ocean waves pinned to the collar, her hair neatly coiled at the back of her head. "Good morning, Mr. Su." Her voice was clear and calm as she inclined her head in greeting. "I apologize for disturbing you so early." Referencing data from the Allied Command Intelligence Unit, witness accounts from battle survivors, and our bank's own intelligence network confirms you achieved remarkable results against the Wolf Alliance yesterday. Per the terms of the bounty notice, I will need combat footage from you for verification. Your submarine should maintain complete battle recording systems, correct? Suhai did not answer immediately. He weighed his options. Combat recording was standard equipment on every submarine, automatically capturing footage ever since his first rusted military sub. The recordings contained nothing overtly damning, yet caution prevailed. He did not desperately need the bounty reward. At that moment, Xiaqing Lan continued speaking, her tone growing more formal. "Mr. Su, I must add a clarification regarding the bounty verification process that I may not have fully explained earlier. 4 high-value target bounties jointly issued by the Allied Command and Undersea Commercial Bank. There exists a tiered reward system beyond standard gold and material compensation. Sufficient combat contributions can unlock 6th Order evolution blueprints and 6th Order marine creature cores." Suhai's pupils constricted. 6th Order evolution blueprints. 6th Order creature cores. These items were far more valuable than gold or ordinary rare materials. The cores in particular represented an undeniable temptation. He leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping lightly on the armrest, his gaze steady on the amber eyes on the screen. From their first meeting, Xiaqing Lan had struck him as unfathomable. Every word was carefully measured, every expression precisely controlled, and every conversation felt like a move in a game whose full board he could not see. She knew his private channel, was aware of his combat achievements, and anticipated his hesitation before he voiced it, ready with counteroffers. Now she wielded 6th Order blueprints and cores to push him into a seemingly harmless action, handing over combat footage. The footage itself might not hold great risk, yet his intuition warned her motives extended far beyond simple kill confirmation. A deeper agenda lay beneath the surface, one he had not yet deciphered. The harder she pressed him, the more suspicious he grew. Silence stretched for more than 10 seconds. Vice President Suhai spoke in his usual steady voice. I regret that I cannot provide the footage. I am interested in 6th Order blueprints and cores, but I will acquire them by my own means. Xia Qinglan's eyelashes fluttered faintly. Her smile remained fixed, yet a flicker of surprise and scrutiny crossed her amber eyes. She paused briefly, then nodded, her tone carrying measured regret. If that is your decision, Mr. Su, I shall not press the matter. Her fingers tapped lightly on her control panel, and she shifted back to her usual professional demeanor. There is another update to share with you. Latest intelligence from Allied Command confirms that after suffering heavy losses in successive battles, the remaining main forces of the Wolf Alliance have abandoned scattered outposts. They have consolidated all surviving vessels into one massive combined fleet. They believe this formation will deter potential attackers. The Allied Command plans to mobilize all available forces tomorrow to launch a full assault against the Wolf Alliance fleet. An encrypted set of coordinates transferred to Suhai's interface. The designated battlefield coordinates have been sent. You are welcome to join the battle if you wish. Bounty regulations remain unchanged. Rewards will be issued immediately upon receiving verified combat footage of eliminations. Naturally, if you still decline to share recordings, the spoils obtained from defeated enemies will remain substantial. I am merely passing along information. The choice to participate is yours. She bowed slightly, her customary unyielding smile returning. I look forward to hearing news of your success. Happy hunting. The video connection terminated. Dozens of kilometers away from the Leviathan-class submarine, a silvery, white Tier 3 submarine hovered near a kelp forest. No Alliance markings adorned its hull, only a simple dark golden stripe running from bow to stern. This was the undersea commercial bank's flagship, the Balance. Inside the Balance's command cabin, Xia Qinglan closed the communication panel and tapped her fingertips twice against the console. The practiced professional smile faded completely from her amber eyes, replaced by profound scrutiny tinged with amusement. He still wouldn't take the bait, she murmured to herself. A genuine smile tugged at her lips, not the polished expression reserved for clients, but the delight of encountering a worthy, intriguing opponent. A slender young man stood in the shadows behind her, wearing a dark gray tactical analyst uniform with thin, rimmed glasses. Streams of data continuously scrolled across his lenses. His name was Wen Yichen, chief tactical analyst of the Undersea Commercial Bank, and Xia Qinglan's most trusted subordinate. He possessed an extraordinary innate ability, battle retrospection. By watching combat footage, he could accurately reconstruct every unit's firepower output, shield strength, maneuver performance, ammunition types, and the captain's decision-making patterns. Using this data, he constructed mathematical models to predict the combatant's future performance and growth trajectory. His ability carried a critical limitation. He required complete combat footage to activate. Battle reports, survivor testimonies, and fragmented sonar data only allowed him to reconstruct 40 to 50% of events, insufficient to build precise predictive models. Madam President, Wen Yichen pushed up his glasses, a trace of helplessness in his voice. Mr. Su's vigilance is extraordinary. Even the offer of 6th Order blueprints and cores failed to sway him. I had hoped we would secure his combat footage this time. Xia Qinglan leaned back in her command chair and sipped her lukewarm Longjing tea. She sounded unperturbed, her tone meaningful. It would be strange if he gave in easily. If he surrendered footage merely for the lure of 6th Order blueprints, he would not be worth my personal attention across 2 meetings. Wen Yichen, who do you believe holds greater potential, Su Hai or Zhao Tianlei? Wen Yichen fell silent for a moment as data raced across his lenses before offering a cautious, honest reply. I cannot reach a conclusion. Without combat footage, my ability cannot be activated. Judging from the information he is willing to disclose, this individual upgraded his submarine from Tier 1 to Tier 4. During missions on the Abyss defense line, he piloted a Tier 2 submarine to single-handedly eliminate a Tier 3 corrupted entity, ranking within the top 3 in the region for contribution points. He consecutively wiped out multiple hunting detachments of the Werewolf Alliance, including a Tier 4 hunting fleet, and coordinated with Allied forces to sink the Tier 5 flagship Wolf Emperor. With such combat achievements, he would qualify as a core combatant in any alliance. Yet he refuses to join any alliance. A lone operator, he has survived this long and only grows stronger with every battle. He paused. The potential of someone like this may be even more terrifying than Zhao Tianlei. Xia Qinglan said nothing, merely nodding slightly that a complex glint flickered within her amber eyes. She was a reincarnator. She had lived through the full course of this deep-sea game once before. She knew the ultimate trajectory of the game, which players would rise to prominence, which would perish, and which seemingly powerful alliances would eventually fall apart. In the memories of her past life, the name Su Hai never appeared on any list of top-tier players. He either died early, or remained like a pearl buried deep in silt, never discovered by anyone. But in this life, he had not only survived, he was thriving better than anyone she had ever known. Promising even more than Zhao Tianlei, Xia Qinglan set down her teacup, her voice soft, almost spoken to herself. Unfortunately, he is far too difficult to control. Right then, her private communication channel chimed. The caller ID showed Zhao Tianlei. Xia Qinglan glanced at the screen. The playful smile on her lips faded instantly, replaced by her usual professional smile. She tapped to accept the call, and the video feed opened. Zhao Tianlei sat in the command seat of the Thunder, with a wraparound holographic tactical projection wall behind him. He maintained his stern, imposing demeanor. With thick brows, deep-set eyes, and the lightning insignia of the Thunder Alliance embroidered on his epaulets, he exuded the aura of someone accustomed to holding authority. Qinglan. Zhao Tianlei's voice was low and direct. Have you gathered full information on that lone operator? What are the results of his combat assessment and potential projection? Xia Qinglan shook her head, her tone carrying a measured hint of apology. He would not take the bait. His vigilance is extremely high. I attempted to tempt him with Tier 6 blueprints and a Tier 6 core unit in exchange for footage of his battles, and he turned me down outright. Without combat recordings, Wen-Yi cannot conduct an accurate combat evaluation. We can only confirm for now that he commands at minimum a Tier 4 submarine, equipped with some form of high-strength shield or hull armor, and his firepower output far exceeds the average for his tier. Beyond that, we have no further details. Zhao Tianlei fell silent for a moment, his brows furrowing as he tapped his fingers heavily against the armrest. He did not fly into a rage. He knew Xia Qinglan's capabilities. If even she could not extract information from that lone operator, the target was truly tough to handle. Furthermore, their relationship was not purely superior and subordinate. The undersea trading firm and the Thunder Alliance operated as partners. Xia Qinglan was not his subordinate, and he had no grounds to treat her harshly. Forget it, Zhao Tianlei waved a hand, his tone tinged with dismissive contempt. He is merely a lone operator. No matter how capable he is, one person cannot shift the tide of events. Do not waste excessive time on him. Shift your focus to tomorrow's major battle. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice with solemn, cold sharpness. Officially, tomorrow's battle is meant to eradicate the Werewolf Alliance, but we have only one genuine objective, 2 items held by the leader of the Werewolf Alliance. The first is an epic tier talent stimulant. Upon consumption, it can further unlock a player's innate talent, triggering a qualitative leap in talent effectiveness. There is only one of this item in the entire region, and it is in the possession of the Werewolf Alliance leader. The second is a map. I do not yet know exactly what it marks, but according to the intelligence I possess, this map points toward the core secret of this region. He paused, his voice deepening further. Remember this for tomorrow's battle. Do not commit fully to the fight. Let minor alliances and independent combatants act as cannon fodder, and let them deplete the Werewolf Alliance's firepower. Our main forces must preserve strength and strike at the critical moment to seize the Werewolf Alliance leader. Winning the battle itself is not our goal. Obtaining those 2 items is. As long as we secure them, we emerge victorious even if every other combatant perishes. Xia Qinglan nodded gently. Understood. Zhao Tianlei shifted his tone, a cold edge creeping into his words. Additionally, keep a close watch on Lin Shuang of the Free Alliance on the battlefield tomorrow. That woman constantly opposes me. She is undoubtedly also targeting the items held by the Werewolf Alliance leader. She poses a far greater threat than the lone operator. No matter how strong a single warrior is, he stands alone, while Lin Shuang commands the elite forces of an entire alliance. If she moves to seize the items at the same time as us, do not hesitate to engage her forces. Understood. Xia Qinglan retained her calm, unchanging smile. Zhao Tianlei nodded in satisfaction and terminated the communication. The instant the video screen went dark, Xia Qinglan's professional smile vanished like a candle snuffed out by the wind. She leaned back into her command chair, twisting her slender fingers around the edge of her teacup. Unabashed contempt flickered within her amber eyes. "You truly see yourself as the one calling the shots," she murmured toward the darkened screen, a cool smirk in her voice. "If I did not need you to act against the final boss and claim the ultimate reward later on, I would have crushed you long ago." Wen Yichen pushed his glasses up from behind her and remained silent. He knew the manager spoke the truth. The intelligence network of the undersea trading firm penetrated far deeper than the Thunder Alliance realized, and Xia Qinglan held far more hidden assets than Zhao Tianlei knew. She chose to cooperate with Zhao Tianlei solely because his flagship Thunder was a formidable Tier 5 submarine in these waters, boasting overwhelming frontal combat power. And when facing the final boss, formidable frontal combat strength made for an indispensable shield or cannon fodder. "Manager," Wen Yichen asked quietly, "how should we operate during tomorrow's battle?" Xia Qinglan set her teacup down on its tray and stepped up to the holographic tactical sand table. Her amber gaze swept over the battlefield coordinates and faction deployments marked across the terrain. After a moment, the familiar smile that never reached her eyes returned to her lips. "Much the same as what I told Zhao Tianlei. Preserve strength and wait for the right opportunity. But let him continue believing I am cooperating wholeheartedly with him." Meanwhile, in another stretch of ocean, an ice-blue Tier 3 submarine hovered along the edge of an undersea cliff. The vessel's hull was covered in a thin layer of crystallized armor, shimmering with frigid silver-blue light amid the dark depths. This was the flagship of the Free Alliance, the Frost Queen. Inside the cockpit, a young woman stood before the holographic tactical sand table with her arms crossed over her chest. Tall and willowy, she let her silvery white hair fall loosely over her shoulders, strands drifting gently in the breeze from the temperature control system. Her features were exquisitely fine, yet her bearing carried a biting cold that kept others at a distance. Her eyebrows rose like distant mountain ridges, her eye corners tilted upward, and her pale ice-blue irises regarded everything as if observing through a sheet of ice. This was Lin Shuang, leader of the Free Alliance. Standing beside her was a young woman in her early 20s with short bobbed hair. A few faint freckles dotted her round face, and her small eyes held extraordinary alertness. She wore a crisp dark blue captain's uniform with sleeves rolled up to her elbows, revealing tanned forearms. Her name was Yi Xian. She was Lin Shuang's deputy, pilot of the Frost Queen, and one of the few people capable of drawing a genuine smile from Lin Shuang. "Shuang Jia." Yi Xian's voice held a note of unease as she traced aimless lines across the control panel. "The major battle is tomorrow. What exactly is our plan? I have never trusted Zhao Tianlei. He suddenly took the lead organizing the Allied forces, claiming he wants to eliminate the Werewolf Alliance for the greater good. I do not buy it for a second. Since when has Zhao Tianlei possessed such a strong sense of justice? During the Abyss defense line missions, he avoided committing his full strength, and he was always the first to rush for spoils after skirmishes. Now he pretends to be a champion of justice? Impossible." Lin Shuang did not reply. She turned her head slightly, her ice-blue eyes fixed on the faction markers spread across the holographic sand table. The markers for the three Allied fleets were blue, while the Werewolf Alliance was marked in red. At the largest bright spot deep within the red zone, the Werewolf Alliance leader's flagship, the coordinates of Zhao Tianlei's Thunder were specially highlighted in gold. Silence stretched on for a long time. "Pass orders to our forces." Lin Shuang finally spoke, her voice clear and icy, like frigid water flowing slowly beneath ice. "Fight and assess the situation tomorrow. Do not commit our full strength without my command." She turned around, her ice-blue gaze fixed on the dark, deep sea beyond the viewport. "Zhao Tianlei is no honorable man. He organized this allied coalition for no moral reason. He must have an objective targeting the Werewolf Alliance leader, something whose value far outweighs the cost of this battle. If my guess is correct, he will send minor alliances and independent fighters to charge forward as cannon fodder while waiting for his chance in the rear. He has pulled this trick countless times before." Yi Xian nodded, yet lingering worry remained. "So, if Zhao Tianlei strikes at the critical moment, should we compete with him for the prize?" The corners of Lin Shuang's lips lifted into an extremely faint curve. It was not a warm smile, but the cold, confident smirk of a hunter spotting its prey. "Of course we will," she said. "Whatever Zhao Tianlei seeks cannot be ordinary. If it is a valuable treasure, why should he claim it all for himself?" The Leviathan-class heavy hunting warship cut steadily through the deep sea at cruising speed. Suhai leaned back in his pilot's seat, staring at the encrypted coordinates sent by Xia Qinglan. It marked the designated staging point for the Allied offensive, located at the boundary between an undersea plain and a graveyard of sunken vessels. The terrain opened wide, yet numerous reef formations and wreckage scattered around created ample ambush positions. He pondered for a long while. Xia Qinglan's invitation clearly concealed an agenda he could not fully decipher, and he could not untangle the deeper logic behind her actions for the time being. One fact remained certain. Nearly every major faction in the region would converge for tomorrow's battle. The three allied fleets, remnants of the Werewolf Alliance, the Thunder Alliance, the Free Alliance, along with countless independent operators and minor alliances. Sooner or later, all these forces would converge near the canyon entrance. Instead of encountering them blind later, it was wiser to observe the battlefield firsthand. He could gauge their actual combat strength, command styles, hidden assets, and weaknesses. Beyond that, large-scale battles created ideal hunting grounds. Amid the chaos, no one would notice a stealth submarine picking off targets on the flanks and collecting spoils. If an opportunity arose, he would not mind claiming more unclaimed loot. Xiao Tianmei had woken up by now. Suhai synced the coordinates to the navigation system and issued instructions. Adjust heading for these coordinates. Activate the Phantom Stealth system and maintain full invisibility. Acknowledged. Zhao Tianmei pushed the control lever, and the Leviathan-class vessel faded silently into the darkness of the deep sea. After traveling some distance, the edge of the quantum resonance sonar detected a small fleet. 7 or 8 submarines formed a loose formation, bearing different insignias. Some carried the emblems of minor alliances, others bore no markings at all. Clearly, this was a makeshift unit assembled from independent combatants, also heading toward the battlefield. Suhai intended to circle around them, yet the lead submarine sent an open-channel communication request, not an encrypted private transmission. He accepted the call, and a mature male voice came through the communicator. Submarine ahead. Are you heading to join the Allied forces to combat the Werewolf Alliance? Suhai recognized the voice. Lin Dong, the player who posted paid pin messages on the global channel at the start of the game, captain of the medium research submarine that required at least 3 crew members. Back then, he claimed he possessed blueprints and basic weaponry, urging players to team up. He argued no one could survive alone, and unity was the only path forward. That felt like a long time ago. He had not only survived, but managed to assemble a unit of his own. Suhai activated the video feed and saw Lin Dong's tanned face beneath an open, hearty smile. He looked far more weathered than at the start of the game, yet the enthusiasm in his eyes and genuine grin remained unchanged. I am not joining the coalition, Suhai replied calmly and politely. I am merely traveling in this direction for my own reasons. I prefer to stay out of large-scale conflicts. Lin Dong paused, then laughed, revealing white teeth. No worries. Everyone follows their own path. No pressure. Still, as an independent operator, you can rest assured. We will unite to defeat the Werewolf Alliance. Once they are eliminated, independent fighters like you can travel safely without constant fear of sneak attacks from behind. Suhai offered no further comment, only nodding faintly before terminating the communication. The Leviathan-class vessel accelerated past the small fleet, continuing toward the battlefield. When dozens of kilometers remained to the designated combat zone, Zhao Tianmei slowed the submarine to low speed and located an excellently concealed position behind an undersea hillock. Towering reef walls surrounded the spot on 3 sides, and a massive, overhanging rock shelf loomed overhead. The rock formations absorbed active scanning pulses from the quantum resonance sonar, blocking all detection waves originating from the battlefield. Hold position here, Suhai ordered. Keep the Phantom Stealth system active and maintain passive monitoring. We wait for the battle to commence. The Leviathan-class vessel hovered silently within the shadow of the rock shelf, like a shark lying in wait for the perfect moment to strike. The battle erupted several hours later. The quantum resonance sonar clearly displayed the Allied 3-pronged advance, striking the combined Werewolf Alliance fleet simultaneously from the south, east, and west. The Werewolf Alliance consolidated all remaining forces into a tightly packed defensive formation centered around their leader Long Zhao's flagship, the Blood Wolf Emperor. Tier 4 escort craft and Tier 3 assault boats formed a circular defensive perimeter surrounding the flagship. Dozens of submarines clashed atop the undersea plain. Torpedo trails, missile arcs, and shockwaves from depth charges stacked one after another, and bursts of explosions lit up the ocean like daylight. The Allied formation was clearly flawed. Minor alliances and hastily assembled independent units formed the vanguard. Their firepower density and coordination were insufficient to breach the Werewolf Alliance's core defenses. Wave after wave of assaults were repelled, leaving numerous smoking wreckages scattered across the seabed. Meanwhile, the elite forces of the Thunder Alliance and Free Alliance lingered on the battlefield flanks, firing occasional volleys merely for appearances, never venturing deep within the Werewolf Alliance's effective firing range. Zhao Tianlei's Thunder and its escort of several Tier 4 vessels remained far out on the periphery, clearly waiting for an opening. Long Xiao had seen through the Allied scheme. He ordered his outer defensive line to contract, deliberately creating what appeared to be a vulnerable gap to lure Allied minor units forward. Several unsuspecting small fleets charged into the opening and were instantly annihilated by converging crossfire. The forward Allied units began to retreat in disarray. Several submarines collided with wreckages in the chaos, breaking their formation. Just then, the familiar cold system prompt echoed inside Su Hai's mind. Ding! Daily Intelligence System. Today's intelligence has refreshed. A pentagram selection panel unfolded before his eyes. Su Hai tapped the red option marked Hunting Intelligence without hesitation. Dark red light rippled outward, rendering precise dark line outlines of the seabed terrain spanning 30 kilometers. The layered formation of the Werewolf Alliance was laid bare. The weak point of the Tier 5 shield on the flagship Bloodwolf Emperor was marked at its rear starboard section. Alliance leader Long Xiao possessed the forbidden artifact Illusion Mask, capable of plunging enemies into hallucinations and triggering friendly fire for a short duration. A special reminder accompanied the Hunting Intelligence. If targeting Long Xiao, strike after he uses the Illusion Mask. The mask has an extended cooldown window, presenting an optimal attack opportunity. Within the loot preview list, Su Hai spotted several items that sparked his interest. Loot preview. Long Xiao, leader of the Werewolf Alliance. Epic tier talent stimulant ×1. Upon consumption, further unlocks the user's innate talent and achieves a qualitative upgrade to talent effectiveness. Usage requirements. Spirit power 100+, stamina 100+. Game map fragment ×1. Marks the location of core secrets within this region, including the coordinates of the final boss and the route leading to the next sea zone. Fourth order evolution energy core ×2. Deep sea currency ×85. Void crystal ×72. Shadow alloy ×68. Various ammunition and equipment, miscellaneous. Su Hai's gaze lingered on the lines for the talent stimulant and the game map for a long while. Talent stimulant. His daily intelligence system, his sole hidden talent, was already immensely powerful. If he could further awaken it, what heights would its capabilities reach? The game map was an invaluable treasure. It not only marked the final boss's position, but also the path to the next stretch of ocean. He was determined to claim both items. The battlefield situation had shifted drastically during the time he reviewed the information. After suffering repeated blows from counterattacks, the vanguard units of the minor allied factions hesitated and slowed their advance. Several damaged second-order submarines retreated toward the edge of the battlefield. The retreat signal triggered a chain reaction across the Allied communication channel. More and more small groups began to consolidate their formations and fall back. Though the outer defensive line of the Wolf Alliance had sustained heavy losses among its escort craft through successive clashes, its core formation remained steady. The Bloodwolf Emperor stayed anchored firmly at the center, like a colossal beast lurking in the abyss, yet to unleash its full strength. On the command deck of the Thunder battleship, Zhao Tianlei knitted his brows tightly. He had planned to let these minor alliances and independent fighters drain the Wolf Alliance's firepower. Once both sides were worn down, he would send his elite troops forward to seize victory. He had not expected them to crumble so easily. If they kept retreating like this, they would fail to deplete the Wolf Alliance's ammunition, and the Alliance's morale would collapse first. A pack of useless trash, Zhao Tianlei muttered under his breath. He then opened the internal command channel for the Thunder Alliance. Thunder 1st Assault Unit, 3rd Assault Unit, 5th Assault Unit, move out. Lead the minor factions forward for another charge. Take point and tear an opening through the Wolf Alliance's outer circular defense line. Do not conserve ammunition. Strike with full force. 3 contingents of the Thunder Alliance's elite slowly advanced out from the battlefield flank. Their formations were orderly, armed with well-configured firepower. The lightning emblems painted on their hulls stood out vividly amid bursting flames. Seeing the Thunder Alliance's elite take the front line, the hesitant minor factions regained momentum. They realigned their formations and followed suit. Led by the elite units, the Allied charge finally gained cohesion. Multiple fixed emplacements along the Wolf Alliance's outer defensive line were destroyed one after another, and cracks began to spread across the circular perimeter. Inside the command cabin of the Bloodwolf Emperor, Long Xiao stood at the command console. Beneath his graying eyebrows, his cold eyes tracked the shifting Allied formations on the sonar display. He watched the breach torn open by the Thunder Alliance elite and witnessed the signal markers of numerous escort craft on the outer line vanish one by one under concentrated crossfire. Still, he held back his forces. He waited for the Allied fleet to push deeper, for their formations to draw tighter together. Alliance leader, his deputy spoke with urgency. The eastern section of the outer defense line is breached. The 3rd escort unit has lost more than half its strength. Should we send reserves to reinforce? No, Long Zhao's voice rumbled low and hoarse, as if forced from deep within his chest. Let them press further inward. Widen the breach. Draw them inside. He lifted a hand, his rough fingers brushing the edge of the control panel before gripping the master control lever for the weapon systems. The Blood Wolf Emperor's weapons interface lit up before him. 12 heavy torpedo launch tubes, 8 vertical missile silos mounted on its upper hull, 10 compact rapid-fire torpedo turrets along its sides, and the heavy particle disintegration cannon mounted on the bow, an armament only 5th-order submarines could carry. The ammunition indicator lights for every weapon glowed solid green. Engage full power to the engines. Long Zhao's voice rose sharply, carrying the pent-up ferocity of a storm ready to break. Set all systems to combat readiness. Let them understand why this vessel bears the name Blood Wolf. The Blood Wolf Emperor's nuclear fusion reactor roared. The massive hull of this 5th-order heavy battleship slowly advanced from the center of the Wolf Alliance formation. It lacked the speed of light submarines, yet its slow, unstoppable advance inspired greater dread than any high-speed rush. It resembled a moving mountain of steel bearing down upon the Allied fleet. Sonar operators in the Allied vanguard were the first to detect the anomaly. The Blood Wolf Emperor's signature burned glaringly bright on their screens. Its displacement dwarfed ordinary 4th-order submarines. Its hull was clad in thick, multi-layered dark red composite armor, overlaid with a 5th-order reactive energy shield. Unlike the common pale blue energy barrier, this was a liquid energy layer the color of congealed blood, slowly flowing across the hull surface. Any ordnance striking the shield was neutralized instantly by a reverse energy shockwave. Its explosive force dissipated before it could touch the armor. The Blood Wolf Emperor is moving. A shrill cry echoed across the channel. Moments later, the bombardment arrived. In its first volley, the Blood Wolf Emperor's 12 heavy torpedo tubes discharged every warhead simultaneously. This was no precise targeted strike, but a sweeping barrage. 12 heavy torpedoes trailed thick white wakes, advancing like a moving wall toward the densest cluster of the Allied vanguard. Explosions merged into a continuous wall of fire across the Allied formation. Overlapping shockwaves capsized several 2nd-order submarines packed closely together. 2 vessels snapped at their keels and sank in 2 broken halves. Another lost its propulsion to the shockwaves and drifted helplessly into nearby reefs. Next came a salvo from the 8 upper-hull missile silos. 8 anti-ship missiles arced upward, passing over the Allied vanguard before diving vertically to strike the minor Allied contingents regrouping in the rear. Those units had believed they were safe holding back, unaware the Blood Wolf Emperor's missile range covered the full depth of the battlefield. Massive craters erupted amid the Allied rear. Several submarines undergoing emergency repairs had no time to evade. Direct missile impacts triggered ammunition hold detonations, sending surrounding craft spinning out of control. Yet what plunged the Allied vanguard into despair was the heavy particle disintegration cannon on the Blood Wolf Emperor's bow. A thick, dark red particle beam erupted from the muzzle, carving a straight, blazing crimson trail through the seawater. Seawater along the beam's path instantly ionized into superheated plasma, releasing countless tiny bubbles. The beam swept across the left flank of the Allied vanguard. A 3rd-order heavy assault craft took the blast head-on. Its energy shield withstood the searing particle stream only briefly before rupturing. The shield generator overloaded and exploded. The hull melted and vaporized under extreme heat, sliced cleanly into 2 halves from bow to stern. The cut was no jagged metal fracture, but a smooth surface fused by high temperature, still glowing faintly dark red. The beam did not halt. It continued its sweep, severing another evading 2nd-order submarine amidships. The craft's captain never managed to send a distress signal before the command cabin was pierced by the particle stream. The entire crew instantly incinerated. In just one attack wave, the Allied vanguard's left flank lost multiple submarines. The chatter on the Allied channel dissolved into panicked shouts. What is that weapon? A particle cannon. The heavy particle disintegration cannon exclusive to 5th-order submarines. How can such armament exist here? The third left flank unit is wiped out. All hands lost. That single cannon destroyed them entirely. My shield shattered just from a near miss by one of its missiles, from over 100 meters away. How can we fight this? We cannot break through. There is no way through. Our torpedoes barely stir ripples on its shield. The Blood Wolf Emperor pressed onward at a steady, unrelenting pace. Its cruising speed was modest, yet every meter it advanced chipped further away at Allied morale. 10 rapid-fire torpedo turrets along its sides maintained a relentless rate of fire, driving off or sinking any Allied submarines attempting to circle around its flanks. Dozens of direct torpedo strikes from the Allied vanguard failed to breach the dark red energy shield. Ordnance impacting the liquid barrier vanished with a muffled thud, much like stones sinking into marshland, their explosive flames absorbed by the shield itself. One Allied fourth-order heavy hunter warship attempted to circle the Blood Wolf Emperor's right flank. Its 6-torpedo battery unleashed armor-piercing warships at maximum rate, managing to create faint ripples across the dark red shield. This was the first visible disturbance the Allied forces had managed to inflict all battle. Long Shao let out a cold grunt and ordered the bow particle cannon to swivel toward the right flank. The dark red beam swept out. The fourth-order heavy hunter's shield burned through within 3 seconds. Its hull warped and melted under extreme heat. The command cabin was pierced by the particle stream, and the vessel disintegrated in a violent explosion. Barely more than 10 seconds separated the moment it scored its hit and the moment it was destroyed. Morale among the Allied vanguard collapsed completely. The Thunder Alliance's frontline elite suffered catastrophic casualties. The first assault unit was nearly annihilated, the third assault unit lost more than half its strength, and only one of the 2 fourth-order heavy hunter warships from the 5th Assault Unit maintained formation. The minor Allied factions following the elite advance fared even worse. Several small coalitions lost all their submarines, leaving scarcely recognizable wreckage. Retreat signals spread through the Allied channel like wildfire. No one dared face the towering dark red warship head-on any longer. From the bridge of the Thunder battleship, Zhao Tianlei watched his carefully trained elite troops cut down like grass by the Blood Wolf Emperor. His face turned livid, his knuckles creaking with tension. He drew a deep breath, suppressing surging rage and grief to force himself to think clearly. He quickly weighed the situation. Without intervention, the Allied vanguard would soon fall into full retreat. Even combining the remaining elite forces of the Thunder Alliance and Freedom Alliance might not be enough to overcome Long Shao. The Blood Wolf Emperor's shield and firepower far exceeded all projections. Above all, the heavy particle disintegration cannon could burn through a fourth-order submarine's shield in less than 10 seconds. Though his own Thunder battleship was a fifth-order vessel, the cost of a direct clash was far too high. He gritted his teeth and opened an encrypted channel directly connecting to the Freedom Alliance flagship, the Frost Queen. On the video screen, Lin Shuang retained her usual icy composure. Silvery white hair fell loosely over her shoulders, and her ice-blue eyes regarded him calmly, waiting for him to speak first. Alliance leader Lin, Zhao Tianlei spoke in a low, hurried tone. Gone was his usual condescension, replaced by the pragmatism and urgency of a man backed into a corner. You have seen it. The combat power of the Blood Wolf Emperor surpasses every estimate. The 3 elite units I sent forward have suffered heavy losses. Your Freedom Alliance has yet to commit its main forces. I do not accuse you of holding back strength. But consider the reality. If we fail to strike now and the Allied vanguard collapses, neither of us can defeat Long Shao relying solely on our own fleets. I propose a full-scale assault, mounting simultaneous pincer attacks. You can hold back no longer. Deploy your Frost-Eye warhead. I know it is your ultimate trump card, but this is the last chance to use it. Lin Shuang fell silent for several seconds. Her ice-blue eyes scanned every shift of expression on Zhao Tianlei's face through the screen. She distrusted Zhao Tianlei and disliked his character, yet she could not deny his reasoning. The Blood Wolf Emperor demonstrated overwhelming combat strength. Should it continue crushing the Allied vanguard, the Freedom Alliance and Thunder Alliance would stand little chance fighting separately once the front broke. Agreed. Her voice was crisp and cold. The Freedom Alliance will advance from the right flank. I will command the Frost Queen to engage the Blood Wolf Emperor directly. Zhao Tianlei nodded and terminated the communication. He then activated the General Allied Command Channel, his voice booming with desperate resolve. All Allied units, listen closely. The Thunder Alliance commits its full fleet, sweeping around the Wolf Alliance core defensive line from the left. Repeat, full advance. The Freedom Alliance pushes forward simultaneously from the right. Every vessel still capable of firing follows us into battle. We must destroy the Blood Wolf Emperor in this assault. The Thunder battleship surged out from the rear of the battlefield. The Fifth-Order battleship's nuclear fusion reactor roared, diverting maximum energy to its propulsion systems. 16 heavy torpedo tubes and upper-hull missile silos erupted in fire at once. Behind it sailed the Thunder Alliance's surviving elite, 2 Fourth-Order heavy hunter warships, 5 Third-Order assault craft, and more than a dozen Second-Order fast escort vessels, advancing in tight formation with all weapons active. On the right flank, the Freedom Alliance's Frost Queen emerged from the shadow of an underwater cliff. Lin Shuang oversaw operations personally. A thin layer of crystalline energy coated the Frost Queen's hull, shimmering with frigid silver-blue light beneath the deep sea. Her fleet was slightly smaller than the Thunder Alliance's, yet far more refined. 3 Fourth-Order heavy hunter warships and 6 Third-Order assault craft, representing the Freedom Alliance's finest units. Instead of tight groupings, the Freedom Alliance spread into flexible diamond grids. Their overlapping fire zones allowed coordinated strikes without mutual obstruction, revealing far superior coordination compared to the Thunder Alliance. The scattered remnant vessels and minor allied factions halted their retreat upon seeing the full mobilization of the 2 major alliances. Lin Dong shouted across the allied channel. The 2 major alliances are attacking. Follow them forward. Submarines that had fallen back to the battlefield perimeter turned around and pressed onward behind the elite formations. The Blood Wolf Emperor found itself trapped in a 3-way encirclement. To its left, Zhao Tianlei's Thunder battleship unleashed constant barrages from its 16 heavy torpedo tubes, sending violent ripples racing across Long Zhao's dark red shield. To its right sailed Lin Shuang's Frost Queen. Missiles with icy blue trails continuously launched from its upper silos. Each impact spread sheets of ice across the shield surface. Frigid energy within the ice seeped into the energy barrier, slowing its flow and rendering it brittle. Directly ahead stood the reassembled Allied remnants. Though their fire density had weakened, their numerical advantage continued to pressure the Wolf Alliance's outer escort craft. The Wolf Alliance's outer defensive line finally buckled under 3-sided assault. Escort craft sank one after another. An irreparable gap tore open through the circular perimeter. Though the Blood Wolf Emperor remained formidable, its dark red shield endured wave after wave of bombardment from 2 Fifth-Order warships without collapsing. Its particle disintegration cannon kept retaliating, melting one overconfident Freedom Alliance Third-Order assault craft into molten metal. Still, its supporting escort forces were rapidly eroded, and it would soon be completely isolated. Inside the Blood Wolf Emperor's command cabin, Long Zhao stood at his station, bloodshot eyes beneath his graying brows. He glanced at the sonar display as escort craft signals winked out one by one, then turned his gaze toward the steadily approaching Thunder battleship and Frost Queen on both flanks. The old scar cutting across the bridge of his nose twitched under emergency lighting. He understood that if he did not unleash his final trump card now, there would be no further opportunity. He reached into his uniform and pulled out a palm-sized mask. The material appeared neither metallic nor bony, fashioned from semi-transparent, faintly glowing dark purple substance, with delicate runic patterns slowly circulating along its edges. This was his forbidden artifact, the illusion mask. Long Zhao pressed the mask to his face. Dark purple light burst outward from the mask. A visible purple shockwave radiated outward in a fan shape centered on the Blood Wolf Emperor, spreading rapidly in all directions. The shockwave passed unimpeded through seawater, hulls, energy barriers, and all physical obstacles, surging straight into the command cabins of every Allied submarine within several kilometers. Long Zhao held nothing back, channeling the illusion mask's power to its absolute limit. Allied vessels at the front line were the first affected. One leading Third-Order assault craft suddenly swiveled its turrets, discharging every torpedo in its 6-tube battery into the flank of a neighboring friendly vessel. A Second-Order escort craft dropped depth charges directly onto Allied submarines advancing beneath it. The pilot of a Fourth-Order heavy hunter warship hallucinated hordes of abyssal bone sharks tearing apart his vessel. Screaming, he launched all his missiles, targeting the friendly fleet formation directly ahead. Aboard the Thunder battleship, Zhao Tianlei's pupils constricted sharply. The moment the illusion shockwave washed over the vessel, the edges of his vision warped briefly. However, the clarity pendant hanging against his chest activated automatically. A stream of pure, clear energy rushed into his mind, repelling the hallucination. He was one of the few who could retain his clarity of mind. Aboard the Frost Queen, Lin Shuang possessed exceptionally powerful mental strength. As the leader of the Free Alliance, she also owned items capable of mental defense, which lessened the effects of the illusion shockwave to a minimum. However, the several assault craft under her command lacked such defensive capabilities. Point 2 lost control briefly amid the hallucinations and fired upon friendly vessels before emergency orders from Lin Shuang forced them back into line. The majority of the Allied forces had no access to mental defenses of this caliber. The Allied three-pronged encirclement formation crumbled completely under the ravages of the illusion shockwave. Dozens of submarines could no longer distinguish allies from foes under the spell of hallucinations. Some opened fire on friendly ships, others circled aimlessly, while many desperately fled the battlefield. The Wolf Alliance battle line, which had been on the verge of being shattered, stabilized once more amid the chaos of the Allied forces attacking one another. Long Shao tore off the mask, its dark purple glow fading entirely. His face was ashen pale, veins bulging on his forehead. The side effects of the forbidden artifact raged violently within him. His mental power had been drained heavily, rendering the illusion mask unusable for a considerable time. Still, a ferocious sneer tugged at the corner of his mouth. "All forces counterattack," he roared. The 12-barreled heavy torpedo tubes of the Blood Wolf Emperor unleashed fire simultaneously. The entire Wolf Alliance advanced, launching a ferocious assault amid the narrow window when the Allied forces were mired in confusion. The Allied vanguard suffered heavy casualties amid the combined assault of friendly fire and the Wolf Alliance. This was a genuine rout, not a tactical pause, nor a measured pullback to reorganize formation, but a chaotic, irreversible collapse. Retreat signals in the Allied communication channel dissolved into desperate screams and distress calls. Several crippled submarines collided with the wreckage of Allied vessels in their panic, while countless others raced to escape the combat zone. It was at this moment that Su Hai struck. The forbidden artifact, the illusion mask, was cooling down, and nothing remained to stand in his way. The Ghost stealth system of the Leviathan class heavy hunter vessel disengaged instantly. Its nuclear fusion reactor roared, channeling full power to the thrusters. Its speed rocketed from a stationary hover to maximum velocity within seconds. Bursting out from behind underwater hills, it traced a sharp black arc across the chaotic battlefield, slicing through gaps in the retreating Allied formation. Its bow aimed straight for the densest concentration of Wolf Alliance ships as it charged headlong into their ranks. The cacophony on the Allied channel fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into pandemonium. "What is that? A submarine? Just one. It's charging straight at the Wolf Alliance front. Is it suicidal? That speed, it exceeds 100 knots. This isn't one of our submarines. The model cannot be identified. It's Su Hai. That's Su Hai. I've recognized its sonar signature from previous battles. This is the vessel." Every eye watched as the Leviathan class charged directly into the Wolf Alliance's artillery coverage zone. Dozens of torpedoes converged on it from all directions. Blazing explosions merged into a wall of fire engulfing the hull, churning the surrounding seawater into a roiling tempest beneath the shockwaves. When the flames cleared, the faint blue glow of the quantum shield shimmered through the smoke. The shield strength had dipped only marginally before recovering. Debris that failed to be fully absorbed by the shield slammed against the hull, failing to leave even the faintest scratch thanks to its permanent durability property. Blue arcs of the pulsed electric field rippled rhythmically across the vessel's surface, incinerating all incoming fragments into molten slag. The Leviathan class emerged from the blast completely unharmed. Countless suppressed gasps echoed across the Allied communication channel. One of the submarines that had been fleeing frantically ground to a halt at the sight. Then a second, and a third. Lin Dong's voice boomed across the Allied channel, strained from shouting. "It's him. I've spoken to him before. That lone operator who rarely takes sides. He's charging in all by himself. One man charging into the entire Wolf Alliance fleet. Has he lost his mind? No, he hasn't. Look at his firepower. Every launch tube aboard the Leviathan class discharged ordnance at once. The 12-barreled heavy torpedo tubes unleashed a full salvo of conventional torpedoes. 6 triple vertical missile silos ejected Sea Spear, 3 anti-ship missiles, while 8 auxiliary torpedo tubes along the hull poured out ordnance at maximum firing rate. Dozens of projectiles trailed dense white wakes, advancing like an advancing wall of steel to crush the outer defensive line of the Wolf Alliance. Hidden within the conventional barrage, dark-scale armor, piercing torpedoes streaked forward with faint blue trails, striking weak points in the energy shields of a Tier 3 escort craft. Their armor-piercing property tore massive rents straight through the barrier. Dark Abyss Annihilation torpedoes surged through the breaches, detonating inward, collapsing dark red energy spheres deep within the hull. The pale blue beam of the heavy particle cannon swept across the densely packed outer defense line. Superheated particles burned clean through the propulsion system of a Tier 2 submarine from stem to stern. One vessel, then a second, a third, Wolf Alliance escort craft exploded and sank one after another under the Leviathan class's concentrated fire. System alerts flashed continuously across Suhai's vision, yet he did not spare them a glance. His gaze remained locked on the largest red contact deep within the defensive formation, the Blood Wolf Emperor. Every combatant on the battlefield witnessed Suhai charge alone into the Wolf Alliance main force amid the Allied retreat, cutting through resistance without sustaining damage. Aboard the Thunderclap, Zhao Tianlei shot abruptly to his feet, hands braced against the control console, his knuckles whitening from tension. He stared fixedly at the sonar contact rampaging through the Wolf Alliance formation. His lips parted as if to speak, yet only a hoarse murmur escaped. This cannot be. He had watched dozens of torpedoes and missiles strike the black submarine, watched it vanish entirely within a fireball, then watched it emerge unscathed, its shield barely diminished. His complexion turned ashen, the blinking sonar signal reflected in his dilated pupils. On the Frost Queen, Lin Shuang's icy blue eyes never left the sonar display. She watched the black submarine surge out of the retreating Allied ranks, charge straight into the crossfire of dozens of Wolf Alliance vessels, emerge from the explosions unharmed, then tear the outer Wolf Alliance defenses to shreds with mounting firepower. For the first time, her perpetually impassive face betrayed obvious shock. Her eyelashes trembled faintly, her lips parted slightly, and undisguised astonishment flickered in her icy blue eyes. Several Tier 4 heavy hunter craft served under her command, yet none possessed shields and firepower of this caliber. This was just a single submarine, crewed by one person, facing the full remaining main force of the Wolf Alliance. Aboard the Balance, Xia Qinglan froze mid-motion, her teacup suspended in the air. Amber eyes locked onto the familiar sonar signature. Her fingers tightened around the cup's rim, knuckles growing taut. She knew Suhai was powerful. She had visited him twice, only to be turned away by his calm, detached tone. She understood better than most how formidable he was. Still, she had not imagined he could reach such heights. She watched his Tier 4 submarines sink escort craft one after another, watched his eerie dark torpedoes rupture shield after shield, watched him endure a saturation strike of dozens of torpedoes without his shield failing. She recalled the words she had spoken to Wen Yiqin moments earlier. He has greater potential than Zhao Tianlei. Now she realized her previous assessment had been far too conservative. Behind her, Wen Yiqin pushed up his thin, framed glasses, countless streams of data scrolling rapidly across the lenses. Watching the black submarine carve an unopposed path through the Wolf Alliance formation, his lips trembled slightly. He spoke softly, loud enough for Xia Qinglan to turn her head. "Director, I believe the name Suhai will spread across the entire region after today." On the battlefield, Wolf Alliance escort craft collapsed one after another like dominoes under the Leviathan-class assault. Suhai fought his way from the outer defenses deep into the core formation, leaving only sunken wreckage and drifting debris in his wake. He broke through the final line of escort craft and headed straight for the Blood Wolf Emperor. Inside the Blood Wolf Emperor's cockpit, Long Shao stared at the rapidly approaching contact, a Tier 4 submarine charging directly toward him. He froze for an instant. Shock gave way to disbelief, then burning outrage at the perceived insult. Throughout all his campaigns, from the Abyss front to this decisive battle, he had always piloted the Blood Wolf Emperor to crush enemies. No one had ever dared charge him single-handedly. Now a mere Tier 4 submarine, not even Tier 5, dared advance to kill him? It is nothing more than a Tier 4 submarine. Long Zhao's voice rumbled low, heavy with anger at the slight. Does it truly think it can slay me? He turned toward his deputy and barked orders. Load the blood spear into the forward torpedo tubes. All weapons lock onto that black submarine. I intend to see how many legendary armor-piercing torpedoes its shield can withstand. The forward 12-barreled torpedo tubes of the Blood Wolf Emperor began loading massive torpedoes marked with dark red stripes, the Blood Spear. One of Long Zhao's trump cards, these legendary armor-piercing torpedoes had been seized from the armory of a Tier 5 ruin. Each possessed enough power to pierce the energy shield of a Tier 5 submarine head-on. In Long Zhao's judgment, the shield of a Tier for Submarine would offer no more resistance than paper against the Blood Spear. He planned to reduce the overconfident Black Submarine and its reckless captain to fragments with a single Blood Spear salvo. Leaning forward against the console, beneath his grizzled brows his eyes tracked the approaching black vessel. A cruel, confident smile curved his lips as he waited for the sonar contact to vanish once the flames cleared. Someone on the Allied channel detected the Blood Spear loading aboard the Blood Wolf Emperor. Their voice rose sharply with despair. Long Xiao is deploying Blood Spear, those legendary torpedoes capable of penetrating Tier 5 shields. Suhai's Tier 4 submarine cannot endure them. Aboard multiple Free Alliance submarines on the Allied flank, crew members gripped the consoles so tightly their nails dug into metal panels. Lin Dong shouted until his throat grew raw on the Allied channel. Suhai? Evade. Those are Blood Spear torpedoes. They punch through Tier 5 shields. His call echoed across communications, yet no reply came. The black submarine appeared completely oblivious to all warnings. Its speed increased rather than diminishing, charging straight toward the Blood Wolf Emperor's forward battery. Suhai did not swerve. He knew the Blood Spear could not bypass his permanent durability. He would not merely stand idle and take damage. Intelligence reports had clearly marked the Blood Wolf Emperor's weakness. A minor inconsistency in energy distribution existed within the Tier 5 shield covering its rear starboard section. This design flaw arose because the shield generator shared an energy conduit with the propulsion system. This vulnerability was nearly impossible to target under normal combat conditions, yet Suhai saw it clearly. His gaze fixed firmly on that single weak point. Xiao Tianmei, shift the bow 3 degrees. Lock onto the unstable shield zone surrounding the Blood Wolf Emperor's rear starboard thrusters. All Dark Abyss collapsed torpedoes, full salvo. Heavy particle cannon. Maintain continuous fire on the same coordinate. Lock confirmed. Firing. 3 Dark Abyss collapse, torpedoes launched first. Molten dark red energy flowed across their hulls as they raced along straight crimson trails, striking precisely where the Blood Wolf Emperor's rear starboard shield fluctuated. The collapse ability activated. Microscopic gravitational singularities formed at the detonation points, compressing seawater, shield energy, and armor fragments inward. The Blood Wolf Emperor's rear shield tore open a massive rent under the pull of the gravitational singularities, and the shield generator blared an overloading alarm. Dark Abyss annihilation torpedoes followed. Dozens of black ordnance surged through the breach, detonating inward, collapsing dark red energy spheres deep inside the thruster, housing, and engine compartment. Continuous explosions mangled the turbine blades, scattering debris in every direction. The pale blue beam of the heavy particle cannon pierced the shield opening and burned steadily into the propulsion system. Sustained energy incinerated and vaporized titanium turbine components. The thruster casing glowed bright red before rupturing under extreme heat. Power output aboard the Blood Wolf Emperor plummeted amid the particle beam assault, its speed dropping rapidly to a near standstill. Most of the Blood Spear torpedoes hastily launched by the Blood Wolf Emperor had their trajectories deflected upon striking the Leviathan, class's quantum shield, and phase deflection field, missing vital sections. The few projectiles that bypassed the deflection systems and shield left not a single scratch on the hull upon impact, stopped cold by permanent durability. Long Xiao's pupils constricted violently. The confident smile froze on his face. He watched his shield rupture, watched thrusters melt under particle beam fire, watched the Blood Spear torpedoes strike the black submarine without so much as rocking it. Moments earlier, panic had filled the Allied channel. Now, after witnessing Suhai punch a breach in the Blood Wolf Emperor's shield, silence hung for 2 heartbeats before erupting into wild elation. Voices roared over the channel. They hit. Suhai struck the Blood Wolf Emperor's weak point. Others rambled excitedly. The Blood Spear did nothing. Suhai's vessel remains unharmed. This was more than ordinary excitement. It was the euphoria of witnessing the impossible, pulled from the depths of despair to the heights of hope. Then a member of the Alliance noticed a critical issue. Suhai was consuming ordnance at an alarming rate. The Leviathan, class's firepower density far exceeded standard tier for submarines. Each salvo unleashed dozens of projectiles. Fighting from the outer defenses all the way to the core formation meant its ammunition expenditure dwarfed other vessels many times over. Suhai might be running low on ordnance, the player warned anxiously over the channel. His words rippled through the Allied communications. Then one player took an action no one anticipated. He opened the trade interface, withdrew dozens of torpedoes from his storage, and sent them directly to Suhai via the Allied public channel. His ID flashed briefly, not a renowned leader, nor an Alliance Corps member, merely an obscure Tier 2 submarine captain. After completing the transfer, his message rang clearly above the din of explosions. Suhai, the ammunition is modest. I hope you will accept it. This message ignited the fervor building within the Allied channel. More and more players opened their trade systems, sending torpedoes from their personal stockpiles to Suhai. Items were transferred free of charge, listed at zero currency. Notes attached to trades varied widely. Keep going, Suhai. Defeat Long Shao. I'm emptying my arsenal for you today. I send these torpedoes for your courage to charge the Wolf Alliance alone. Lin Dong shouted across the channel, his voice nearly drowning out the blasts. Everyone who can spare ammunition, send it. Those without supplies, buy whatever you can. Suhai carries all our hopes forward. We cannot let him stop for lack of ordnance. More participants joined the effort. Ordnance transfer notifications flooded the Allied channel like a waterfall. Indicator lights on Suhai's weapons panel flickered from red back to green one after another. One trade note read, Suhai, I was stationed at the 48th Defense Line. I once watched you fight from afar. These torpedoes are my tribute. Another said, I do not know Suhai personally, yet I watched him single-handedly destroy over a dozen Wolf Alliance craft without faltering. He deserves my ammunition. Inside the cockpit, Suhai watched the steady stream of transfer alerts and countless attached messages. He fell silent for a moment. He did not decline. Free ammunition was not to be wasted, and he needed it badly at this moment. He loaded all received ordnance into the launch tubes in one command. A full row of weapon indicators lit bright green. Continue firing, he said. His tone stayed calm, yet the corner of his mouth twitched faintly. We must not waste the ammunition they have given us. After the brief pause, the Leviathan class unleashed another furious, concentrated barrage. Dark Abyss annihilation torpedoes and dark-scale armor. Piercing torpedoes attacked in coordinated groups. The heavy particle cannon maintained steady fire on the shattered section of the Blood Wolf Emperor's shield. Every strike targeted exactly the same location. The Blood Wolf Emperor's shield generator finally suffered catastrophic overload and shut down entirely. Sheets of dark red energy peeled away and dissipated from the hull. With its shielding gone, the Blood Wolf Emperor's hull sat exposed before the Leviathan class armaments. The final wave of Dark Abyss collapse torpedoes streaked forth. Crimson trails pierced the heavily damaged thruster section of the Blood Wolf Emperor. Gravitational singularities formed deep within the engine compartment, compressing and crushing everything inside. Successive collapses and explosions tore the engine compartment apart from within. Flames burst outward through cracks in the hull. Until the very end, Long Shao could not comprehend how a Tier 4 submarine had uncovered the shield flaw known only to himself and his most trusted deputies. The Blood Wolf Emperor's sonar contact flickered wildly several times, then vanished completely. Farther back on the battlefield, Zhao Tianlei had ordered an assault the moment the Blood Wolf Emperor's shield ruptured. He hoped to kill Long Shao before Suhai and claim the talent stimulation potion and map. The thunderclap surged forward, its 16-barreled torpedo tubes locked onto the Blood Wolf Emperor's coordinates. Yet the Blood Wolf Emperor's signature disappeared from sonar before the thunderclap could close the distance. Zhao Tianlei stared at the slowly spreading wreckage contact. His fingers clenched against the console, knuckles creaking with tension. He had dispatched 3 elite detachments, committed his full fleet, formed a coordinated pincer with Lin Shuang, and endured heavy losses to drive the Blood Wolf Emperor into a corner. In the end, Long Shao perished at the hands of a Tier 4 submarine, the same lone operator Zhao Tianlei had dismissed as a minor threat unable to achieve much. As the Leviathan class passed above the Blood Wolf Emperor wreckage, its automatic salvage system activated, frantically gathering loot. Pulse electric fields and micro-tendrils from the Thorn armor retrieved all floating loot orbs within a 3-nautical-mile radius. Supplies flooded into storage. The legendary talent stimulation potion, fragments of the exploration map, 2 Tier 4 evolution energy cores, large quantities of deep-sea krypton or void crystals, shadow alloy. Everything was secured. Lin Dong caught sight of the massive fireball erupting as the Blood Wolf Emperor sank. Drawing a deep breath, he roared with every ounce of strength over the channel. The Blood Wolf Emperor has sunk. Long Shao is dead. Suhai defeated Long Shao. Silence reigned on the channel for 2 seconds. Then the communications erupted like an active volcano. Dead? Long Shao is dead. The Tier 5 Blood Wolf Emperor was single-handedly sunk by Suhai's Tier 4 submarine. The Allied fleet could not bring down the Blood Wolf Emperor working together, yet Suhai accomplished it alone. Suhai? Only Suhai could pull this off in the region. The name Suhai spread like wildfire across the Allied channel, transmitted from submarine to submarine, alliance to alliance, player to player. Those who had fled in panic, the hesitant Tier 2 and Tier 3 submarines, every combatant who had witnessed the entire sequence, the black vessel surged from the retreating Allied ranks, charge unflinchingly into Wolf Alliance artillery, emerge unscathed from explosions, and break through the entire battle line to sink the Blood Wolf Emperor. All fell into fervent admiration. News of the Blood Wolf Emperor's destruction rippled across the battlefield like a depth charge. Morale among the remaining Wolf Alliance forces collapsed completely. Their leader was dead, their flagship destroyed. The seemingly invincible Tier 5 battleship had been defeated head-on by a Tier 4 submarine. They possessed no remaining trump cards to reverse the tide. One Tier 3 escort craft turned and fled the battlefield. Then a second, a third. The Wolf Alliance remnants began a widespread retreat. Lin Dong shouted once more over the Allied channel. The Wolf Alliance leader is dead. The Blood Wolf Emperor is gone. Everyone counterattack. Annihilate the Wolf Alliance. Suhai's victory had ignited Allied morale. Every operational submarine launched a renewed charge. The troops routed by Long Zhao's illusion mask minutes earlier surged toward the Wolf Alliance remnants with renewed determination. The battle situation reversed entirely the instant the Blood Wolf Emperor sank. Wolf Alliance remnants crumbled beneath the Allied counterattack. Escort craft were picked off and sunk one after another, explosions lighting the sea continuously. Suhai did not join the mop-up operations. After sinking the Blood Wolf Emperor and collecting all salvage, the Leviathan class quickly eliminated several nearby Tier 4 escort craft. Disoriented following Long Zhao's death, these vessels could not withstand the Leviathan class firepower or shielding. Suhai prioritized Tier 4 targets whose loot previews indicated rare materials, dispatching them cleanly with dark-scale armor, piercing and dark abyss annihilation torpedoes as the automatic salvage system collected valuable resources. Once finished, Suhai examined the newly acquired exploration map. It displayed multiple coordinates he had never uncovered before: a hidden Tier 5 ruin, an unexplored abyssal rift, and a marked location labeled Entrance to the Heart of the Abyss. The value of these coordinates far surpassed the outcome of the battle itself. He wasted no more time on the battlefield. The Leviathan class altered course, reactivating its ghost stealth system. The submarine vanished from the sonar screens of both Allied forces and Wolf Alliance survivors. It slipped silently past the reefs on the battlefield's edge and headed into the deep sea, away from the fighting.